Good morning and welcome to the Raben Report. I'm your host, Elliot Raben, so get ready to get triggered. Good morning and good evening and welcome to the Raben Report's Season 6 finale. I'm your host, Elliot Raben, and with me is my expert panel, Marshall, Daniel, and Tamar. How are you guys?
Good.
Doing well, yeah, doing good.
That's awesome. And we've also got, it's not just the four of us today. We've also got four very special guests in studio with us. Familiar faces. We have Christina Mangiola. We have Anna Rizo. We have, and last edition, Ruben Perez, as well as a new face, Jussice Ranhotra. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, as per Spirit Live rules and regulations, all opinions expressed on the show are not those of Ryerson or Ryerson faculty and are only those of the individual commentators. Viewer discretion is advised. So as mentioned, it is our Season 6 finale, and that's why we've got a big 2-hour show coming for you tonight at a special time. You can already tell it'll be a spicy one. Of course, it has to be.
Yeah, I want some spicy food. I should have ate before I came here. Yeah.
Go big or go home, as they say. We've got two big contests and prizes for you to thank you for supporting us thus far. The first, both winners will be announced tomorrow. But for this second prize, you got to be watching the show. And the first prize, again, is for the $30 Tim's or Starbucks gift card. And the second prize is for a headshot session from Elliot Raben Productions worth about $150.
That's pretty good.
I hear he's a really talented
That's pretty good.
photographer.
Not going to lie.
Elliot,
Thank you.
My friends in Latin America expect you to take the photo shoot, okay, if they win.
Really? They expect me to? Hold
Yeah.
on, let me get your camera.
Yeah, can we actually enter the contest? That actually sounds pretty good.
I would love that if you could. There's Anna. Hold on. There she is. I would love that, but it wouldn't really be fair to our viewers. But if they come here, then we can do it. So winners of that contest must reside in Ontario, GTA, preferably. The Tim's or Starbucks gift card.
What if they say like Sudbury?
Sudbury. I mean, if they want to come here, we're good.
Okay.
But
you said anywhere in preferred. Okay, preferred. There you go.
Well, they got to come to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So. Yeah.
That's a good offer, though. That's a good offer.
Both prizes, though, you want to tune in. And even without the prizes, you want to tune in because this will be a show you do not want to miss. So let's start with our recap of the week. The first topic is the Ontario budget. Now, the Ford government has come out with their first budget, and there are a lot of positives and negatives with it. So let's... what does everybody think?
Yeah, there's like a lot to unpack there. It's like I think I saw a couple people where... Like lots of people from like high prominent people that worked in the private sector got fired from their positions at the city of Toronto and in the city of in Ontario ministries or something like that. Some guy was like a former CEO of TD, like they were in like minister positions or something like that. But he fired like a bunch of people there, and then it was like $28.5 billion on infrastructure for the TTC and stuff. Right?
Something to that effect.
I don't know, but like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, I also saw that, I think it's Ontario. I'm pretty sure it's Ontario.
Yeah.
They're going to be, universities are going to be funded based on, what was it? Based
on performance.
Based on performance. So,
wow.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting that, like, the better performance, the more money they're going to get from the government.
Wow.
I don't know if that's... I kind of see the positives of that, and I also see, like, the...
Do you think it incentivizes people to work harder?
I think it incentivizes people to work harder, but I think also, like, getting into a university...
Now means more, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
Okay.
I see both sides.
Well, I think it's going to work from the bottom up. The students have to be performing better in order for the professors to remain employed, in order for the departments to keep their funding, in order for the universities to keep their funding.
Yeah, but what would be the KPIs in this case to measure that performance particularly?
Yeah, I actually fully agree with that because there's a different level of performance. There's like research, there is like professors, there's students. Students getting good grades is just like a tiny little part of it.
Well, I would imagine that this refers to the academic capacities of the universities, which will be measured. 60% of that will be measured by student performance. And
so don't you think that will incentivize the university to give better grades and just lower the standards to a certain extent?
well, they can't just give better grades.
that's not illegal?
They could,
That
to
is
be
illegal.
honest. No, that's not true, right? Professors tend to be more stringent, but if they know that
No,
their
but that's
job
why
is
we
at
have.
risk,
But that's
they'll
why
give
we
better
use our
grades.
Ryerson emails, though. That's why they have everything on record, though, because that way, whenever you ask for an extension, whenever something happens, you're responsible. There's all the data
Okay, but
trails
that's
right
not-
there.
Well, yeah, but
there's
forget
no data
about-
trail. You could just mark them like easy.
Yeah, exactly. Forget about the extension.
I have professors who give me really good grades. Do I think I necessarily deserve
so
it?
then-
No, but that's not like that's
But
just
then
'cause
it's
they
not.
give everyone good grades.
But then it's not going to incentivize. It's not going to increase the value of the university degree. It's just going to. It's going to be even worse than high school then.
But nobody cares about that, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's no incentive to keep the university degree valuable.
Yeah.
But in this case, professors can be lenient. Professors can always be lenient, but professors and universities and departments are audited. They can't just be throwing out A's to everybody because that raises flags.
Like you have to justify it with the work that they give you. Right?
Yeah,
So-
you can't just be giving out A's. And so
What if
in this-
everyone deserves it, right? So how do you prove that not everyone deserves A's? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's say,
Because
because
people
they'll get
hand-
audited.
but let's say departments such as political science,
Sorry.
where you write papers that are highly subjective, the professor could always say, like, listen, all my class did an amazing job, they'll deserve an A, and that's it. There's nothing to argue about.
Yeah, but these things aren't entirely subjective. There are objective principles by which papers and other assessments are graded. They can't just say, okay, you tried, here's an A. There are standards that are enforced by
Maybe a
the
way to-
education.
So what, you think that
ministry.
the education minister is going to check every single paper when they do the audit and decide, ooh, well, this one deserves a B+, this one deserves an A. I mean, I don't think it's a viable...
No, they can't do that.
I
but,
don't really think it's a viable system, if you know what I mean.
But professors are always at risk of being audited. If a flag is raised by irregular grading,
That would just like, destroy
But
the
how-
reputation of the university as well. So they have to they maintain their own standard, right? Especially because they have so much government funding.
professors
also-
never know when they'll be audited. Under
Yeah, but once
that,
again, how do you audit the professor? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're giving too many A's.
Random.
That's actually not
But the thing is that is performance. Okay, this is actually kind of a stupid question because obviously I just answered it for myself. But anyways, like, what is technically, how are they defining performance based? Right? Are they talking about performance based in terms of strictly how they're doing in terms of schooling, academia?
Yeah.
Are they also talking about their performance
Like the job they have and stuff
on
like
the
that.
jobs they have, on how they're exceeding what their retention rate, extracurricular? No, but specifically, what's that? You for sure know about it. That thing they do every year, the report about freedom of expression at universities.
Oh, the Freedom Index or
The
something?
Freedom
Freedom
Index,
Index,
and
yeah.
they're talking about performance on that. Like, what else is included in the word
it'll be
performance?
students' academic performance.
Strictly.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and no, that's 60% of university funding will be based on student academic performance.
Okay. Interesting.
So, but isn't it like I think for us though, the reason we got to talk about it is because like Ryerson is a very unique school in comparison to all the other ones. Like it's a commuter school. You know, there's a bunch of like commuter like campuses that exist like in Ontario, but that does make a difference in like performance and stuff like that, right? So it's like I don't know. I feel like that might make a difference, or maybe just like the reputation of the universities. Like an example, like Waterloo is like in a higher like tier than like Ryerson or U of T or something like that, right? So it's like, yeah, it's very interesting how they're gonna assess this. So.
I don't know. There is currently a debate, at least within national education, whether students should be graded on their work, like whether they should be given a grade. Like a lot of folks feel like, you know, like you don't judge someone's value based on grades. Like once again, it's just like literally getting back to telling us.
Is this
like telling the
Timbit
university-
soccer? Are you kidding me? Like, are we? This is like taking the score away from Timbit soccer. This is like taking the ball away. I don't want to grade students on a work. I won't be defined by a number. Like, come on.
I hated getting
So
a
what's the
participation
problem with that?
trophy.
All I'm saying is that at the
Those are
end of the
horrible.
day, all I'm
don't
saying is
build
at the end
character.
of the day, like judging a university based on grades is actually not a good idea because there's so many more things than grades
Okay,
are
but how
involved
else
in
are
running
they
a
supposed to
university.
evaluate you, Ruben? Evaluate you on what?
High school evaluated us on that.
Honestly, like participation, research.
Okay, I'm
like
sorry.
there could be so many things.
If I
right?
was evaluated on participation, I would be failing university because I never show up.
I know so many
So maybe
students
you
that
should be
don't go to
evaluated
class
on
at
it.
all, and they just do the work from home. I know one guy. Like I know the guy because I only see him twice every
Oh, did
semester.
you meet him in DC?
No, I met him in Austin, Texas. There.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But
Did he go with you to DC?
No, he went to Austin, Texas.
Oh, okay.
But
Tamara, you seem to like his DC
What
trip
was
a
it?
lot.
I love hearing
no,
about
it's,
it.
Yeah. But fuck,
I'm so
you screwed me
sorry.
over. Sorry.
Okay, so you have
It's
a
okay.
friend in
Who
Austin,
goes to
Texas.
DC
Austin.
because I'm in DC when I went to DC.
No, he doesn't go to DC. He's in Austin.
Okay, let's keep it moving, folks.
Honestly, I forgot, so it's fine. But,
Sorry.
So then let's.
oh, he just shows up twice for the midterm and for the exam.
Oh
That's
my
it.
God.
Because he doesn't study.
Well, then let's move on to.
forgetful.
Well, actually, one thing I wanted to bring up is some of the changes to the or parts of the Ontario budget are, I believe, $10 or $12 million towards horse racing in Ontario.
What?
Which I back heavily.
Why?
I think it's
It's going
fantastic.
to stimulate the economy.
Horse
Is that a
racing
thing
is
that Ontario is like known for.
Well,
yeah,
Woodbine's right there, like by Moulton. It's a big place.
So
Do you not think there's more important things to put our money
I'm not
horse racing
saying
is
that's like-
horse racing is one of the single most profitable things for our government. All the profits from horse racing in Ontario, 100% of the profits from horse racing, goes back into the Ontario government.
So what
So
about
horse
legalizing
racing-
Not like
meth?
gambling.
Okay, like everything will go back to the government as well. Like, I'm sorry, your argument doesn't make.
What do you
sense.
mean?
Well, legalize
Are
every
you,
single
are you,
type of
are you,
drugs.
because
Well,
it's a,
that's
you're saying that just
immoral.
because it's a vice.
That's
What do you mean
immoral and
immoral?
degenerate.
How did you define what's
Horse
immoral and
racing,
immoral?
horse racing is
And
a
it's
noble
sin.
sport, and all. So this is $12 million, $10 million, something
So
like that.
basically,
It
you
makes
cut
hundreds of
$100
million
That's
dollars.
the noblest
Okay,
of
selling
purposes.
drugs can also make
so
hundreds of
let's say
millions of
let's say
dollars.
we were to get an economist or whatever,
Yes.
and they were to they would justify the expense because in the long run it would have a better return on investment then. Because you're saying that.
We make $300 million a year from OLG, which a lot of that is horse racing, and
So the majority isn't from lottery ticket sales then. OLG is like the whole thing, right?
we do make hundreds of millions of dollars from horse racing.
Okay.
All right,
This pays
let
for
me
itself,
get your- let me
and
get
then
your
some to
argument
the
straight.
nth degree. It is.
But where do we
an-
see that money go to though? Because you just said it goes directly into the government.
You know where
pocket.
half of it goes to
Yeah.
is addictions counseling, because it's we don't want to say we're spending vice money on whatever, but a lot of it goes to addictions counseling, and other parts of it just go to the
wherever the budget
the
needs
nest
it.
egg of the
Yeah,
provincial
let's do it
government.
again. So let's legalize all drugs and put out the money in
yeah,
rehabilitation.
Why not?
That's immoral and it's
What do
degenerate.
you mean it's immoral and
How is it
degenerate?
any
Like,
more
same
immoral than
thing. Yeah,
gambling?
exactly.
Then people can gamble without ruining their lives. You can't
Are
Same
you
smoke.
thing. You could have a line of
Yeah,
cocaine
and
and
guess
without
how many
ruining your
people,
life.
like
Same
literally
thing.
lose their entire life.
Oh
to
yes, of
gambling
course.
addiction?
People get addicted to gambling, but you can't just casually smoke meth. You can't just
Yes, you
casually
can. Of
inject
course
black
you
tar
can.
No, you-
heroin into
You
your
know,
veins.
there's actually a stat that only 1 in 7 people that use heroin are addicts.
Yeah, okay, well, that's a lot of people. 1
One
in
in
7 is a
seven.
lot of people.
But you'd think it would be
extrapolate that
7
to
out of
how
7.
many people use meth. Let's say 100,000 people do use heroin. What's the math on that? I don't know, but that's going to be a very large number.
Forget about that. What I'm worried about is the fact that you cutting funding to education, which is at the end of the day the best investment, because you're training people that are highly, what's the word I'm looking for? They're highly trained. They're gonna add to the workforce, and what you're doing is you're taking this money and you're investing it into horse racing. Like at the end of the day, even from an economist perspective, it makes more sense to invest to education than to invest into horse racing.
Why?
It depends. It depends on how you see it.
Well, in the
because
long run, right?
for
It depends on the
example,
goal of the
There's
government.
still
though.
massive investments into education. Do you know how cheap our education is? Do you know how much the government subsidizes our education? Our education is so
So what?
cheap.
This should be
The government
subsidized.
sub-
even
You're even
more.
talking about
Education
university
should
tuition?
Be free.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Free,
don't
free
make it free.
education.
Education
Don't
should
make
be
it
free.
Why would it be free?
Why
That's
wouldn't it be
ridiculous.
Because
We need
education is
less
right.
people in
No.
university.
If you
Education
believe-
is a
if
right.
you believe education is a right, it should be free. If you do not believe education should be a right, then it shouldn't be free. Either.
Well, that entirely
you know what? We
bastardizes
should
the
have-
meaning of a right.
You know what? We should have less people in university and more people at the horse track. That's what you're saying, basically.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying
It's
we
basically
need
what
more
you're
money
saying.
coming
Horse
into the
track,
government.
horse
Those two
racing.
things are totally unrelated.
No charge
Horse
that,
racing
higher
brings
taxes.
so much money into the
And
government.
in the long run, having people in university will bring even more money to the government. which
Actually,
No, because people are leaving.
I disagree, Ruben, because making education free also gives more budget to the university. This can increase corruptions in universities as well, internal corruption, and that also decrease the
That's
level
never
of
happened
education.
before.
I mean, it really depends on what country, right? Education is free in France. When is the last time they had a corruption scandal? Like, I'm just saying, right?
There probably is.
And not as much as there's in other country. It really depends on the society. And I think in Canadian universities, if education was to be subsidized and was to be free, there wouldn't be as many scandals.
So all of a sudden, all these crooked student unions would just become angels who are so financially responsible they never misappropriate funds.
We're not talking about students' union to have a $2.5 million budget. We're talking about universities that have a $30-40 million budget, people that have a career writing on it. Someone that's the president of a student union stay there for a year and a half max, or 2 years.
And look at all the damage they can do in 1 year.
Oh, hashtag Ryerson.
That's insane.
I'm sorry, they could steal $100,000, $1 million, whatever. It's honestly, it's terrible, but it's not as bad.
Against Ram.
Just one last thing. I mean, this could go on forever about horse racing, but I
Wasn't
wanted
there
to
something
point
else that was added to
There
it?
was,
Yeah.
and I wanted to
Didn't
talk
you want to
about.
spend some more money on casinos or something?
I mean,
let's continue.
I want to
You know what,
talk
let's
about.
close
Here,
Ryerson
let's
and
keep
open
it
a
moving,
casino
fellas.
I want to
Elliot's
talk
talking.
about. I want to talk about some funny things that are in the budget. The fact that they want to redo the logo, the Trillium, because according to
died.
Doug Ford, it looks like 3 dudes in a hot tub.
3 dudes.
Okay, it's not according to Doug Ford. I'm
Well,
sorry.
yeah,
it's
no,
not
it's-
according
Meme
to
that
Doug
I've seen.
Ford.
Oh, but because
but-
he saw the meme and now is taking credit for
Yeah.
it. Wow.
Well, he never took credit for it. People are attributing it to him.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
You
not
don't-
him.
You don't think the
But
license
they
plate
are.
It was a joke,
But the
it was a
point
joke.
is, they are making a change to it because of.
And then the
that
license
and
plate
other
also
reasons.
has the same like Tory colors, like the PC blues, right?
And they're actually changing the license plate slogan.
yeah,
as
as
well.
well. Like,
Yeah, isn't it
Why?
open for business or something?
No.
no, it's
it's from
anymore.
no a
Well,
place
it-
to be or something.
It
like
used
that?
to be yours to discover, and now it's going to
A place to grow.
a place to grow. Yeah.
Good things.
They're
grow.
just putting it out there when the
Yeah.
Liberal government decided to change the logo. The Conservative were up at arms. And right now they decide that they want to change the logo as well.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't see what the purpose is. Like, why?
Yeah.
I mean, why spend the money on it?
Why rebrand Ontario?
Right, because they have a
Yeah.
lot of money now. They'll open their horse track, whatever.
I think that a rebranding is in some ways important. I think that we're kind of washing away the
What if that money-
disgraceful liberal legacy
Wow.
in a way that shows that a new Ontario is here. It's morning again in Ontario. And some changes are going to have to be made, and we want to represent that with the aesthetics of our great province. The logo is so ugly. I remember sitting in a hot tub years ago with some friends, and somebody said, "Hey, we look like the Ontario logo," and I was like, "What do you mean?" And then he pulls it up on his phone, and I haven't been able to unsee it since. And this was like 6 or 7 years ago.
Let me just put it that way. If the Liberal government was in power, they were saying we need to change the logo, you would be saying that it's a waste of money.
It depends what they were doing.
You would be saying it's a waste of money. I think you're a bit biased.
I'm
Conservative
absolutely
government is fine.
No,
right now.
I'm absolutely very bipartisan, and I can accept a good thing from a government when a government does a good thing. It just so happens that the Liberals did so few good things. If they made a logo that looked good and represented our province well, which they didn't, they did the opposite of that.
Yeah, remember
The
the
argument was
logo?
not that the logo was
Yeah,
Yeah,
not,
the
didn't look
OCS
good.
logo, yeah, it was awful. If they made a logo that was good, I would be pleased with it.
But
Yeah.
And they spent
It's kind of a waste
Had
of
they
money, to
hired
be
me to
honest.
do it for them, it would have been good, but they didn't, so everyone lost out. Specifically me.
And you would have got 6 figures right there. Nice.
So let's move on then to our next weekly update, which is about very briefly Pete Buttigieg, and he is a
Buttigieg.
Buttigieg. Sorry, Buttigieg, and he
Think
is
boo and then judge. Buttigieg.
Buttigieg. So he is a Democratic. He's the mayor of city. What city?
South Bend,
Bend.
South
Indiana.
Bend, Indiana, and he is.
It's actually where Notre
he is
Dame is, like
expected
the
to.
university. Yeah.
We're actually going to talk about Notre Dame, but he is expected to announce his candidacy for the 2020 election, and he is actually making waves. If he wins, he would be the first openly gay president. He would be the first, I don't think first, but he has served in the military.
Yep. As a reserve officer for the Marines. Yeah.
Yep. So he is making waves, and if he gets the nomination, he
Maybe
will
not the
be
Marines.
tough competition for Trump. Thoughts? Just actually, I want to go straight to you because you mentioned some recordings that were coming out, right?
Yeah, no, I just saw some article that was like there's a judge that's deciding whether he wants to release these 5 tapes that were recorded in secret, and apparently it has to do with some scandal where he demoted an African American police officer.
From Buttigieg. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just briefly saw that. I'm not
Was that like a mainstream media already picked it up, or was it something like on this like Twitter sphere or something? Like I know they're pretty accurate. They're pretty quick at getting information like that. So.
Yeah, like the news broke about like 10 hours ago, I think.
Oh, wow.
And they still haven't, like the tapes haven't been released yet. It's just people are bringing up like, is it sketchy that he's trying to cover it up?
And it's quite interesting that this is coming up because I feel like anytime there's somebody who has potential to win, a scandal comes out. You know what I mean?
Well, everyone
Honestly, it's better like
like
that. It's better like that.
Well, that's the thing. I thought personally that he didn't really have any skeletons because, like, you know, he came on Ellen and I guess, but he came on Ellen and she talked about him and he talked about himself, but his strategy is not bashing Trump. It's more talking about the positives of the Democratic Party. And I think if he gets nominated and they use that strategy, it's going to work really well for them. Because right now the Democratic strategy seems to be, look what Trump did that's really bad, we can do better. As opposed to Pete's strategy, which will most likely be, let's not focus on, you know, what's happening now, let's just focus on the future. Thoughts?
I think he's copying Andrew Yang's homework, and it's really upsetting to me. Buttigieg is just some lame, boring internationalist neoliberal who brings nothing new to the table except some nice rhetoric that he's entirely copying from Andrew Yang.
I'm sure that Trump is more exciting. I mean, I don't know what he brought to the table aside from funny tweets. I have to give him that.
Well, Trump brought a promise of a new.
Well, I mean, let's just put it that way. At least that guy has some kind of political experience, which Trump didn't have at all.
Sure, and I will say that's what I actually liked about Trump, and that's what I like about Andrew Yang. Not to keep bringing him up.
Yang.
Someone's part of the Yang gang.
Yang is going to be your DC trip.
Yes, but you know what? The thing with
I'll go to DC.
The thing with Buttigieg that I will give him credit for, even though it's entirely stolen from Yang, is the rhetoric, as Elliot brought up. It's not this dumb Elizabeth Warren stuff that's just constantly like Trump is launching an attack on our nation. Trump is literally hanging minorities personally by hand in public. We need to stop this monster. It's the Fourth Reich. We need to put an end to it. It's not that kind of crap that you see from Elizabeth Warren types and, you know, her ilk. And I think that is what the Democrats need if they are going to have a chance of defeating Trump in the general election.
I feel like he seems like he could be a potential, like, maybe he's like, you don't see him like super left, like, but like I see him like as the potential moderate candidate that like.
Yeah, and I mean, he's already being attacked from the left for not being left-wing enough. The Young Turks put out a video attacking him for not supporting entirely free tuition. You know, they they were attacking him for not supporting the removal of private insurance on healthcare entirely. Right. Okay. And so he's already being attacked from the left, and I think that the Democrats, what they struggle with now more than ever is their, and Obama mentioned this actually, is their, you know,
extreme left?
No, it's their well, yeah, but it's their ideological purity. It's the need to fit into this, you know, box.
Isn't Trudeau done similar things though? Like,
Trudeau is very much like that.
Like
as
if you are like at any, like, I think someone corrected me today saying that at least like one person in the Liberal Party is anti-abortion, but I think that was one policy or something similar.
So
like,
Trudeau does have a policy. If you are not pro-choice, you cannot sit in the Liberal caucus. However, as you said, it is hypocritical because that is not applied equally. Yeah, which is as much as I'll say.
Also, it's a law now. If you want to work, you know, the summer grants program.
Yeah.
In order to receive that funding, you need to sign off saying that you are pro-choice as well, like organizations.
Yeah, I remember.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, then, you know what? Honestly, it's not that bad to just define some kind of basic ideological line to like a party.
I agree with
makes
you.
Sense.
I agree with you. Like, as much as I think, as I'm against it ideologically, but I don't think that there's anything wrong with saying you have to follow this ideology to sit in my caucus. You know, party leaders have a lot of power, and I don't have anything against that fact in and of itself. You know, I don't think he's doing anything wrong from a procedural point of view. It's just from an ideological point of view for me. Where I
mean,
disagree.
from an ideological point of view, there's this
you
same
talking
thing
about
on the
Trudeau or
right, right?
Buttigieg?
Trudeau.
Okay.
But I don't want to. We don't want to get too off topic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, like, I
let's
think
continue so we can get to our
Buttigieg is
main
like
topic.
he's like the next like stepping stone to a more progressive Democrat stuff that has a more progressive identity than a more democratic identity, and that progressive identity is going to be very in line with lots of like socialist policies.
And then
And that's like what I think that's a good like I'm not making a prediction, but like we're kind of seeing like a slow wave of that happening. You know,
And he's definitely one to watch, just like Andrew Yang. But moving on to our last weekly update before we get to our main topic. Sadly, Notre Dame de Paris partly went up in
Well,
flames
I love
today.
how you say that with a French accent.
Oh, merci beaucoup, mais je parle
Avec
français.
plaisir, mon ami.
We'll talk
Resident
after the show.
Frenchie.
But wait, it's so sad. You know what I mean? Like to see, you know, it was built in 1260 AD, and to see it apparently 856 years or close to later,
Something
just
like that, yeah.
you know, to be destroyed. That beautiful piece of architecture. It's not really a political issue, but more just an acknowledgement that we should
it's
make.
human
'cause
history. Yeah.
You know. Any
So-
thoughts, Ruben?
Honestly, like, it's terrible. Like, I was seeing that on the news earlier today, and I'm not gonna say I was crying, but I had a little tear falling from my, you know, like it's a national pride, it's a national monument. But as I was saying earlier, like, granted, it's terrible, but also it's an opportunity for France to rebuild itself. Like, at the end of the day, it's gonna create a lot of jobs, and it's always a good thing.
As like a
especially in that
symbolic
kind of-
thing too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, like to rebuild the cathedral. You mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna create thousands of jobs, and you know what? In the current political climate, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But Ruben, as a French citizen, how does that make you feel? Yeah.
Good one. Good.
Well, honestly, it makes me feel happy that my compatriots, I guess, will have jobs.
Yeah, that's good.
mean,
Try
it
to
makes
see
me-
more
it just-
positively into
exactly.
it. You know?
I mean, there was also a. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Actually, something that brings me like kind of attention to it is that it was said that it was an accident, but at the same time, as I was mentioning to you, there has been an increase of vandalizing Catholic churches
Yeah,
in
I was going to
France.
bring that up.
Right.
So it's like 25% of increase compared to last year. And I find very ironic that this happened in the beginning of the Eastern season for Catholics. So,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of makes me
Right,
think like,
but what doesn't happen? Doesn't happen in Paris itself. It usually happens in province. It's way smaller church. Like what we're talking about, Notre Dame de Paris is one of the biggest church in France, if not the biggest church in France. It's like literally a national monument. So I don't think anyone would be stupid.
I think they
enough
said
to
something that
just-
13 million people view it every year. They go to see
Exactly.
it. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want.
It's
to...
not only a religious symbol; it's also like a landmark. It's
Yeah.
a Parisian landmark. I don't think
Yeah,
anyone would be
history.
stupid enough to attack it.
Yeah,
Like that would literally create like another civil war in France.
I don't want to, deny that it was an accident because accidents happen, of course. But I do think that we do have to consider the fact that there has been all these church desecrations and these church burnings.
Well, not burning, desecration, and vandalized. It's a bit different.
There was one lit
honestly,
on
the
fire just
accident-
last week.
The accident theory is much more likely. Like we're talking about a church.
Well, I guess
Candles
what
that are
happened-
lit.
Does anyone know how long?
24/7?
But does anyone know how long we have to wait for it, like to see what's like the?
We have
Never
no.
know.
We
What's
can
gonna
never
happen?
know. We
Just no
we
one-
can't know how long it's
Well,
going
if
to
someone
take.
checks security cameras.
There's no like forensic thing or anything like that. Yeah.
I'm sure.
Well,
like
they're
the,
going to
the
have to do an
fire's-
investigation.
Yeah, they're gonna.
The fire's not even out yet. They can't even.
Oh, yeah, it is out.
Yeah,
I
wow.
think.
Oh, it's
it
out
is?
now?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's out.
Yeah,
Well, that's,
it's really
uh,
terrible.
It is.
Yeah.
But and I'm sure hopefully
The next one, the new one's gonna be bigger and better.
bigger
Yeah.
and better. But hopefully we'll hear more developments about that. But let's move on to our main
Our
topic.
topic du jour.
Before feminism.
Can I do that?
Before,
Dun, dun, dun.
before I go into my little introduction, something I wanted to do off the top of the show
Yeah.
was I wanted our guests to reintroduce themselves for our audience. So, Christina, let's start with you.
So you want to know what I identify as? Is
No,
that what you're asking?
just you.
Oh, okay. Well,
Who are you?
I'm Christina. I am about to graduate from MAC in Political Science and Communication Studies. I've got about
Congratulations.
a week left, and then I'm done and into the real world. So, bittersweet moment in my life right now.
Are you
That's
excited? Are you happy?
I'm
to be done?
I'm happy to be done, but I'm sad to be leaving that part of my life behind.
fair.
I get that.
And fun fact about Christina, you actually have the most guest appearances on the Raben Report, a total of 4 today.
Yeah, thank you.
You just seem so unenthusiastic. You're just like, okay.
Really
But,
cool.
I always beef people when I'm on, so I'm not. I'm not
that's-
sure how.
That's why
how
we
much.
love having you on.
That's why I'm really
Um,
excited to have you on today, because usually I'm the one who insults everyone.
Okay,
Yeah.
well that's
That's good.
And now let's go to Ruben.
All right, so my name is Ruben. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm currently the equity and campaign organizer at the Ryerson Student Union. I graduated from Concordia University in political science and Judaic studies. I also hold a rabbinical degree, and yeah, I love being on this show. It's always a lot of fun.
Beautiful. And now let's move on to Anna.
Well, I'm Ana Rizo. I've been here once, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm originally from Venezuela. I graduated from law school. I have been to the real world since 2014, which makes me feel old. But anyways, glad to be here.
Amazing, and definitely helps to have a lawyer here for our sake.
Especially if things get really spicy tonight.
Oh yeah, and they will. And lastly,
Slander.
we have a brand new face, Jessica. Thank you for being here. Tell us about yourself.
What's up? I'm Jessica. I'm in media production. I feel like, oh my God, Elliot, you surprised me with this whole show. So I host 2 other shows on Spirit Live. One is an improv comedy show, and the other is about conspiracy theories. So this is very different, but I'm really happy to be on.
I'm glad that I'm glad that you agreed to the surprise, because I literally asked you, I think, the day before.
You
right?
asked me
Yeah.
at work. I was
did.
like in between making ice creams. You're like, oh, you want to be on my show? Sure. I find out what it's about today.
I feel like that happens a lot on this show.
Should just drop
We get a
them.
lot of impromptu
Yeah.
guests, but thank you so much for
Thanks
being
for being here.
available.
Yeah, of course, man.
Yeah, and so definitely very happy to have all of you here with differing points of view.
Wait, so we don't get to introduce ourselves?
Oh, I think the people know who we are.
I think, yeah.
People want to know.
I really just want the spotlight to tell everyone, 1, that I burnt my face with the curling iron, and 2, I really want to
That's
tell
your
everyone
DC.
that
There
I
you
know,
go.
right? That's my. Which I literally said. 2, I finished university today, so it's like congratulations. Yeah. So I basically just want to say that.
Well, in that case, Marshall and Daniel, you have anything to say?
You wanna
Marshall?
go, bud?
You know what? I have not finished university yet. I've got a little bit to go, and the people know me. Come on.
Yeah.
we don't. Do I really need an introduction?
No need. And
Pronouns,
Daniel?
please, Marshall.
Oh,
Don't insult me.
and Daniel.
This is about feminism.
Very
My
quick.
name is Daniel. Ooh, then you're another. Hold on one more time. I have lots of cotton mouth because I've been smoking a lot, like of cigarettes and shisha, unfortunately. But let me try that again. My name is Hugo Daniel Hernandez. I am not gonna graduate right now, but that's okay because I'm trying to find myself, like any Instagram model would say on their caption, like on a behind the beach like this.
Yeah.
But besides that, what else can I say? I want to get back into music, and then I want to start doing like some blogging stuff with this website called The Soundtrack. I want to do that again. I was supposed to do one about the Tory Lanez concert that happened with the RSU, but all that shit happened, so I'm like, maybe not.
Fair.
What else do I got to do?
Are you heading to DC anytime soon?
I actually want to go visit like a friend that I made, and so
Are you
she's
gonna
from
play
Chicago.
Pokemon?
Yeah, she's from Chicago, so yeah, she's cool.
And of course, last but hopefully not least, I'm Elliot. As everybody hopefully knows, I put the Raben in the Raben report, and been doing it for 3 years, season 6, and tonight is our season 6 finale. Hopefully, you like the show that we have planned. So, let me get into my classic introduction now. Our main topic: feminism. The Oxford Dictionary defines feminism as the belief and aim that women should have the same rights and opportunities as men. Feminism's origins date back to the 1830s and span to the early 1900s, in which women fought for the right to vote. That was known as the first wave of feminism. The second wave of feminism focused on equal rights in the workplace and removing gender-based discrimination. Today's feminism is known as the third or even fourth wave. The difference now and then is that today there is far more debate about the importance of feminism. Women and men have been split on whether women have achieved equality to the utmost ability or if there's a lot more work to do than ever. We asked our viewers if they thought that feminism today has improved or regressed, and the results will be revealed shortly. But for now, I want to make it clear that this will be an especially sensitive show, but nonetheless a discussion worth having. We have done our best to create a balanced panel, and we hope you can appreciate our efforts. The goal here is to have a productive dialogue with all 8 of us having differing points of view, and we encourage everyone at home watching to share your thoughts as well, to have them read live on air. It's late, my bad. So let's begin. Who here, right off the bat, identifies as a feminist? So let's do our room first.
Oh, we're going through each person.
Just put your hand up. Yeah, raise your hand.
Feminist. I'm
Yeah.
a proud
There
feminist.
you go.
Okay, beautiful. And let's go to the other room. Jess, hand up or no? No?
I'm gonna keep it like.
Halfway?
I'm gonna
Okay.
keep it like
Elbows
this.
up. Yeah.
Ruben?
Both hands up.
Both hands up.
Nice. Thanks, bro.
Wow.
That's my husband.
And Anna?
Just down.
Down? Okay. And of course,
Like,
lastly,
you would throw
Christina.
it to the ground.
My hands up. I'm in the middle a bit, but I definitely would say I'm more hands up.
Okay. Very interesting. And I will not be voting. But
Because you're the neutral person.
I abstain.
yeah, I abstain. So, you know, I don't exactly yet want to know why the rest of you don't identify as feminists, but let's talk about major issues or misconceptions about feminism. So going back to the history of feminism mentioned in my opening, third wave feminism has been argued to have, by some, has been argued to have no cohesive goal or fight.
Does it say
Would
like
you-
a time period specifically? Like
Well, now, today's feminism.
no, but
third
from
wave.
when to when?
I think it started in the 90s.
That's
That's
when
they're
the
saying?
way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So would you disagree or agree with that statement?
Sorry, say that the third wave
Yeah.
is like
There's
BS?
it's been argued that there is no cohesive goal or fight of third wave feminism. Like you look at first wave and that was for the right to vote.
Yeah.
Second wave was for the right to remove gender-based discrimination in the workplace.
Yeah.
Who wants
Do you
to
mind-
take
Do you
it?
mind if I take that real quick?
Go ahead.
I think it's evolved. I think it's like they've branched off into different types of feminists and stuff like that. We have like Marxist feminists, like
There's so many
racialized
different
feminists and stuff like that. It's lots of expansion into the topic of discussion. There's like certain like feminists that like branched off, like radical feminists that don't recognize trans women, like trans men or women at all. Or like there's very different polarizing views, and it's all like very quickly over these last 5 years, I think, has started to branch out with LGBT issues coming up into the mainstream now. So
And adding on to that as well, I think that part of I don't know if it's a goal because it's kind of something that they're always working with. Third wave feminism, I believe, came about as a way to kind of go for all those things and make up for all the issues that were not looked at in second wave feminism.
I feel like it was also a response to like a
Yeah.
war and stuff like that specifically. Because
Yeah.
I'm the only reason why like, I'll be somewhat well versed in this. I'm sorry, but it's like I just like I'm taking this course right now called Women, War, and Peace and stuff like that, and it's really focusing on like everything that happened like post like World War II and like once women entered the workforce and like it affects like and how like we've like maintained some like. I wouldn't say like a complete patriarchy, but we still have some elements of the patriarchy and how it's evolved into society now,
Yeah.
and like how gender roles are going against the traditional gender roles from before the like 49 and 45. You know, like so. Yeah,
But I think if
it's a
we're
lot.
talking about it in terms of like organized waves of third wave feminism, I do kind of see that it doesn't have a cohesive goal. Like you were saying at the beginning, there's a lot of different,
There's no consensus
exactly.
right now. Yeah.
Whereas second wave feminism was for a specific goal, and whereas first wave feminism was for a specific goal, for women's suffrage and for voting.
Well, for white women specifically, though. So, yeah.
Right. So I'm saying
Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah.
Well,
but
we're
that's-
gonna
but
get
that's why
into
it's
that.
we'll get
interesting,
into those
though.
details. But
We
the point
really
is-
see
Well,
it, yeah.
actually, there are goals for the third wave. One of those goals has been pretty much abortion rights, like reproductive rights. have been, like,
they do have goals, but they're not cohesive goals. It's not like you're a third wave feminist if. You know what I mean?
I would kind of disagree.
And there are some feminists that like
I would
Okay,
kind of
yeah.
disagree. The goal of second wave feminism hasn't been reached yet, so it has carried over on third wave, right?
No, but what I'm
the goal
trying
that
to
everyone
say,
has in
Raben,
mind
what I'm
is
try-
that
Raben,
we want
Raben,
equality.
This is
basically.
exactly what we're talking about. Yeah. No, what I'm trying to say is that the actual goal, like, were expressed, right? There was never any specific goal explicitly expressed about third wave feminism.
I think a big part of that could be that we're able to look back at first wave feminism and look back at second wave feminism and say that, you know, this is what they aimed to achieve and this is what they did achieve, whether those two things are congruent or not. Being in the midst of third wave feminism, I think, makes it harder to define.
Yeah.
I think when you're in the middle of a movement, it's always harder to see
Conceptualize
the nuances and the kind of whole shape of a movement until it's in the past. And
Yeah,
you
I would
can-
tend to agree with that.
Yeah, I would
actually.
agree as well.
That's good.
Yeah.
Who's we? Why do you keep saying we, Ruben?
Did I
Said
say
we?
we?
Yeah. You said we twice now.
I would
Oh,
say,
did it?
We
Said I would
yes.
tend
yeah, yeah. In French,
What?
yeah. Is that not what
Oh,
you're saying?
I might have misheard you.
Oh.
No, I think you
we means
misheard
yes.
me.
Guys, can
Yeah.
I just bring up one of the comments real quick?
What's up?
Sure.
Yeah.
So someone says, ask the feminists if they enjoy a beta man. Ask them if they know what is the natural role
Good
of
old
men
Pierre.
and
Why
women
can't
in a
I see these
relationship.
comments? Wait, why can't I see this comment?
Read that.
I don't see this
So-
comment anywhere.
Oh
This
my
like
God.
this just showed up, and then he
Yeah,
says,
I see
I
it.
think that if the alpha male culture and the natural process of seduction begin to spread, feminists would lose many followers. No one
Okay.
can deny its nature, men and women.
Okay, so
So, Pierre, do you disagree with homosexuality then? If you really are listening right now.
I mean, let's stick to
No,
feminism.
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
that's-
we don't have to question Pierre.
But
we can
what I'm
answer his
saying is,
questions.
like,
I
we don't
wish
have
I
to
could
question
see
the
saying-
this
audience.
comment. Can I see it on someone else's? 'Cause
I
need
disagree
to
with the
read it to
comment.
be
That's
able
what I'm
to
saying.
answer it.
I disagree with the comment. That's
Well,
why.
Yeah,
the
I was
only rea-
actually going to
the reason why I
address-
asked that question, I made such a ridiculous question. It's because it's such a
Okay.
ridiculous statement.
Yeah.
From what I'm
that's-
hearing.
That's the thing. It's this. Okay.
First, you have to concede that that
What-
exists.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
first
I
of
don't
all,
want to
what's
interrupt.
a
but-
beta man? Sorry.
A
The
beta,
beta
man
male?
is just like someone. So an alpha male will be like a man who takes control. He's the leader. Whereas like a beta man would be the opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, but everyone has different type of personalities. Like, I mean, I
Exactly.
don't think it's fair to categorize men by their ability to take control.
But I
exactly.
think
and
in
that's
terms of
another
that-
thing that feminism should be, looking at is like if we're trying to get away from categorizing women, why are we putting men into these like roles of alpha and beta? Like,
Well, I have
Well, I
to
don't
admit
think
that I
we
don't
are.
like beta man, so
I think I can look at a guy and go, yeah, that's pretty beta.
yeah,
mean,
but I
well, I
think
think
that's unfair to say because like. I don't. Maybe I
Hey,
don't
here's
know
the
how
thing.
to
Here's the
address
thing.
it.
No, you know what? There's that unfair expectation of men. Like, you often hear someone saying to their kids, like, "Oh, be a man," but you never hear anyone saying to their kid, "Be a woman." Aside from like,
And they should.
Whoa, what do
And
you mean?
that's a
You
compliment.
hear
They
people say
should
be
do it
ladylike
like
all the
that.
time.
Well,
but ladylike doesn't mean be a woman.
yeah, it
you know what I'm
doesn't mean the
saying?
same
It's
thing.
totally different.
Come on.
There
It's
is that
exact
unfair
same
expectation
thing.
of
You mean
men that
something
they should
different.
always take control.
Okay,
What
one
is
at
the-
a time.
okay, what is the
Okay,
distinction?
I'm gonna pause things one at a time, please.
What is the distinction between someone who's a woman and someone who's ladylike then?
What do you mean? No. What I was saying to Marshall in
Yeah.
response is that it means something different when someone says to a guy, be a man,
Yeah.
versus when you tell a woman to be ladylike.
Well,
What's the
when you're
difference?
telling a guy to be a man, you're telling him, man up, be strong, like, come on,
Yeah.
like, be what...
And have
society-
emotions.
Exactly, have emotions. Whereas be ladylike, you're telling this woman because she's not, within a specific framework, you have to act like the way society's telling
Yeah,
you that women have
exactly.
to act. So it is totally different.
I'm not seeing
I
a
fully
difference.
agree,
You
and
just-
a woman
you
is
just
not
said that-
defined by her
one is
ladylike
in a
attributes.
positive kind of... I don't really
What do you
like
mean? Be a man.
I don't.
No,
think,
you're right.
I don't
Yeah,
think.
I am
I do
right.
believe the part of
Yeah,
being
you are right. I
feminine
don't know.
involves
Well,
being
I think-
You're tired
ladylike.
right now.
Well,
No,
I
not
would
necessarily.
say that there's a lot of things about me that are not ladylike, and I'm sure people who have watched this show can see that. But I don't think that defines whether like my level of femininity. Like
I would
am,
say the same thing for
I am,
myself.
I am
yeah.
fully a girl, and like, I'm as feminine as I can be, but
You're very feminine.
my
Yeah.
appearance wise, but there's a lot of things I do that some people would tell me, like that's not very ladylike of you.
Yeah.
Like, the way that I curse, the things that I talk about,
That's true.
Yeah.
I have no filter, and a lot of people have a problem with that because it's not ladylike and
We
it's
don't.
like too.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah,
I
Well,
definitely
because you
do.
guys are different, but I mean, in general, like I don't want to be. I don't want someone to say you're this level of like you're this much of a woman because of the way that you act. It's the same thing with a man. You're still a man if you're a man.
Exactly.
Like I want to say it with like 2 points for me, because it's like I've if I tell people sometimes that you get your like eyebrows done or something like that, that's like they see it like as a guy it's like bad, I guess, sometimes, but I don't think so. But
Do you get your eyebrows done?
I did wax a couple times.
Okay, because
and
I was
like
gonna say
I haven't
they're
done it
really
in a while.
nicely
I haven't
arched.
done
They
it.
look nice.
I haven't done it in a while. But
Well, I think the
But-
concept of sorry, go ahead.
the bigger thing was though, like when like I've gone to like this music festival called Veld before. Like it's been like I've gone like twice, and like last year it was a great time, and pretty much everyone's like half naked or something like that, right? So I just got like a shirt on and like some bandanas and some shorts on, like good time, right?
Okay.
And for me, like I've like, getting out of my comfort zone. It's really sometimes it's hard, and I want to do it. And so like an example, like I went with a friend of mine and two of her friends, and like they're putting glitter on them the whole time and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, like I've never really done that before. Like I'll try it, and I'm like, just because it's like just to experiment, because it's like. But the thing was like when I went to the festival and like the guy's like checking me in, he's like, hey, like why are you wearing like a glitter? I'm like, dude, look at everyone else everyone's wearing like the most ridiculous clothes possible. Like why do you care? Why does that define why does that define me as a man if I want to do something like that? Or I have a friend who paints his fingernails and he's a guy.
Yeah.
Like what, does that really matter anymore? I saw it like and I noticed, and that's it, and I dropped it. I'm like, oh, that's cool, man, nice.
Well,
Like,
I wanted to.
Why is that so important?
I want to go back to the idea of beta male versus alpha male, because
Okay.
this relates to the idea of toxic masculinity, which is a big topic that's also
It's a whole other
that's also a big issue within the feminist movement. But how toxic is toxic masculinity? Where do we draw the line? Because in some cases, I think, and this is my personal view coming in, I think that the connotations of being a man or being ladylike, I think they're important. Just because in certain cases, it's not necessarily of being, being like a woman or like a man. It's just being proper and being, respecting the environment, right?
And listen, there's nothing wrong with expressing your gender or being a woman, being a man. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And
Would you say that's an issue now?
However, no. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem becomes when you're treating people like you can say, people have different roles. And, I will say that I do like. I'm a totally feminist, and I believe that women can do anything men can do, but that doesn't mean I don't believe that women and men have different innate roles. Biology is different, and that doesn't mean that I don't think that men and women can be equal. That doesn't mean I don't believe they should be paid the same. Doesn't mean I don't believe that they should have the same opportunities.
I think the distinction is like with the legal rate, I think,
But I
right?
think-
So it's like
And listen, the same. I want to express something very important that people don't recognize is that to me, feminism is, yes, it's called feminism, which relates more to women. It's about equality for all genders. It's not specifically for women. More specifically, it is associated with women because they were the ones who started the movement, and it was focused on specifically women's rights. Yeah. But it's important.
But they were also the one that suffered the most, right?
Yeah, of course. That's what we were saying. But
Right.
the thing is now is that people are like, yeah, feminists, they all it's all about, so shout out to my uncle watching right now, Jerome, saying that women are in the kitchen. This is what,
Right.
when people think, oh yeah, feminists, they just want to burn their bras and they want, men to be nothing and they hate men. No, I'm a feminist. I'm married to a man, and you know what I mean?
But wouldn't you say there are a lot of people who are like that?
That's what I wanted to say.
Maybe there are, and I
Yeah.
don't agree with that kind of
because
feminism.
because I was going to ask. Today there's a sort of negative connotation associated with feminists, and they are often considered so angry. Why is that?
Well, the reason why we see it that way is because there's those social expectations surrounding the role of men and the role of women, right? We see women that burns their bra as angry, but we don't realize that they're just expressing themselves. And at the end of the day, we're upset because they're not ladylike, but at the end of the day, they're just expressing their nature and what they want to express.
But if they're expressing all men are scum,
if a
then-
man is upset, no one's gonna tell him anything, right? The only thing you're gonna tell him is chill out, dude, relax. But when a woman is upset,
that a good thing?
Oh,
when a
women
woman
can
is
get upset.
no, I
for
fully agree,
everything,
right?
too.
But
Not
when a
only
woman
for
is
feminism.
upset, society has a tendency to make a big deal out of it, and that's based on social expectation.
That depends
What do
on
you
the type
mean?
of
Women
society.
cry all the time. We don't
It's
make
not
a
a
big
matter
deal
of
out of that.
crying.
I think there needs to be a distinction made between the fact that feminism and radical feminism are two different things. Like I would say people that are, you know, inciting like violence and hate towards men and just are evil spirited, like that is not what feminism should be, and unfortunately that's what it's being associated with.
Would you say that that is exactly what, you know, is taking over the third wave?
Well, see, the one thing I have an issue with is like feminism. So let's say third wave started in the 90s. Like I agree, like that's 29 years ago, 1990s. So like I totally can say that 29 years ago there's probably things that were like that needed to be changed. So I would kind of address feminism now more as like fourth wave, only because I do think there was a purpose. I was going to bring that up to you. Yeah, I do think there was a purpose at one point when it first started. So I'd say like the feminism that's kind of like, you know, doesn't have any cohesive goals would be like the more like modern fourth wave feminism. And I think fourth wave feminism is radical feminists taking third wave feminism and turning it into, I don't know.
And I want to segue from that and just ask a question of Elliot. If I know you mentioned getting to asking those who did not raise their hand when asked of a feminist if we're going to get a chance, because I'd like to explain myself on that, because I don't feel bad saying it.
No, you are, because even...
Because I don't want to jump to that if it's going to come up later.
No. We are gonna talk about it, and...
You want to address that now? Then?
I don't want to address it now if it's going to come up later.
There I feel like in in the chat as well, guys.
Yeah, we see. We're talking about...
Do we have any... Let's see.
Well, we're talking about concepts of toxic masculinity.
I mean, like calling someone beta is a negative way, or calling someone alpha is a negative way.
I've never heard that.
Hold on. Elliot?
Oh, yeah. My bad.
I want to go back to the idea of equality and roles that, Tamara, you brought up. Is there, and this is kind of going into the future of feminism, which is, you know, a little later in the show, but we can talk about it now. Is there really a point in which men and women will be fully equal? Because when you talk about the roles, don't both genders have certain strengths and weaknesses that will never, like, there's no such a way that they're going to be completely equal, or, you know, what's your stance on that?
Wait,
different does not mean unequal. I just want to say that.
That's what I was just going to say. I was going to chime in and
That's
just
a really
say
good way to put it.
Yeah, I really want to be your best friend, by the way, because I feel like we really connect on this.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll give you my number after.
Yeah, after. Okay. But I think that that's something really important to know, is that just because, you know, you are different and, you know, you're better, like, forget the men and women right now. Right now, okay, if in RTA, right? In my program at university, someone is better at editing than I am. Someone is better at filming than I am. Yeah. Someone is better at hosting than I am. But in my humble opinion, no one is better at writing than I am. That's an example. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
So like everyone, when we make a show, everyone's doing their own thing, right? I'm the writer. This person's the host. This person's that, etc. And it comes together and you have something great, and, you know, you have an amazing show because everyone did what they contributed to it. We all contributed equally. At the end of the day, like, the same thing applies to men, women, you know, trans people when it comes to gender roles and that kind of thing, is that it doesn't matter if you're not all doing the same thing. As long as you're all treated equally with equal respect, that's all that matters, because everyone...
And equal opportunity.
Exactly, having equal opportunities. Telling someone, you can't do this because you're a woman, I mean, I don't know how many things like that happen nowadays explicitly. I mean, personally, I've never come into that situation. Those kind of things, I think, like, that's not right. But, you know, saying that, you know, men and women and trans people are different is a totally different, you know...
argument.
Yeah, but for example, what do you think about when people say, like, oh, there are not enough women in technology? Therefore, in order to get women in technology, we need to create quotas. So we push women into technology. But when you look at other careers, there are also the other case around. Like, there are a lot of women in certain careers and not a lot of men.
Because we've socialized women to believe that they can't do these certain jobs and stuff like that.
What if you are actually pushing women?
There are not certain jobs, or not... there's one thing that in my feminist class that we talk about is, like, almost everything you can think of is gendered to some degree.
Yeah, but
Like,
don't you
literally-
think that it's gender for certain reasons, for
Yes,
certain traits, for
exactly.
certain personality types?
Right.
And I think that everything is gendered, and that's fine and good. There's a reason why all across the world women are teachers. This is not something that's unique to Western civilization. This is something that was briefly not the case in the late 1800s and early 1900s when only men were allowed to be teachers.
Well,
But-
that's also socialized to a certain extent. Like, if you don't mind me interrupting, like when women started having access to, I guess, the workforce, the patriarchate, whatever how you call it, men deemed women only good enough to take care of children and to be teachers. So that particular job, that field has been
No, not
It's like a
entirely,
limiting.
Ruben.
It's limiting,
I
isn't
will
it?
tell you because of my example. When I was in high school and I finished high school, I was 100% sure I was going to get into engineering. But I went to law school. I don't believe law is like teaching at all in a certain extent. Yet,
And I was just responding to Marshall saying that
Yeah.
there's a huge amount of women that goes into teaching. But what I was answering to a certain extent is that that's also been socialized to a certain extent, right? Women have been pushed to have certain job because society has been organizing it that way.
We've organized these traditional gender roles
Well,
into our society.
I just want to add to that.
That's a good point, yeah.
Like, I do think that women have been socialized to do certain things more than others, but I do want to kind of address the fact that naturally, when we talk about like natural instincts, women are better caregivers. And I'm not saying that men can't be good caregivers. I'm saying that naturally women are more inclined to be like they're more gentle, they're like and that's nature. That's not even me
Yeah, and
having
it's a generalization.
Yeah, but I would
It is
push the
a-
argument a little
leaves room
further,
for their-
right? Like,
Right,
where
yeah,
does
yeah. But it leaves
where
room-
does this natural instinct come from, right?
Right,
Well,
but
I would say
Ruben,
that
it leaves
natural
room for there to
instinct-
be exceptions to a rule, right?
Yeah, but I think that what I'm saying is it's natural based on the fact that like women are, you know, their sex is to bear children and to, and I'm not saying that this isn't have some aspect of socialization, because I definitely agree with that. But I look at even like my own parents, and my mom is a teacher, and I genuinely think that she is the right, like she should be a teacher. My dad would not do as well as her in the job because of the way that they are naturally. You know, my mom is more patient. She's you know, women are more emotional. They're caregivers, and I'm not saying that isn't somewhat influenced by socialization, but I do think that there's a natural aspect of women being
I also
more
believe
caring.
it's like the aspect that men, they have the testosterone, and that makes them take more risk and be more like,
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
that's
like
what
a
I mean.
spark,
Is
a
like
force.
when you think about certain jobs, like, and I can even just say myself, like in university, I've had like female profs that I've been I felt much more like comfortable with. I've like appreciated the way that they like handle a class more. And it's not to say that male profs aren't just as good as them. I'm just saying, like, in my own personal experience, I do think women naturally are just like softer. Easy.
That doesn't mean that a man can't be.
Oh,
that
no,
as well.
no.
No. I'm adding
Oh,
on to what
yeah.
you're saying. I know
Yeah.
you're saying that too.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of times people think like when you make these generalizations, that doesn't mean that there can't be room for exceptions. It doesn't, just because you say women are natural, it doesn't mean that like a woman is not any less a woman if she's not nurturing. You know what I mean?
So, like, to say that like it's okay for a man to be softer, does that mean like, by that same principle, it's okay for a woman to be like harder? Like, by the way I'm using,
of
yeah,
course.
So it's, like,
100%.
and that's why,
Yeah, totally.
because
Well,
like,
it's
not
also
everyone
that
has to,
natural
not
instinct
everyone has
is
to
what's
maintain that
expected from
trope of
society
ladylikeness, you know, or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this going back to the socialization, in
Are you dying?
No,
You
my
good?
lungs fucking hate me right now. Sorry, mom and dad. I've been smoking way too much.
this
It's the jewel, bro. I'm sorry. I gotta throw that shit out once I'm done with it.
So this socialization, though, to play devil's advocate, would you say that it has worked in a positive way to be able to sustain society for this long?
Well, okay. I think that's I don't know. Like,
Well,
I think specifically in I'm trying to like form my thoughts here.
All right, so while you figure it out, like there's something called the chaos theory, right? So basically the theory is pretty simple. The world is chaos and we're looking at it from hindsight and we try to make sense of the chaos, right? So same idea could apply here, right? Those I guess this socialization is not necessarily good or bad, but we're just trying to make sense in the world. So what we do is that we're trying to make sense of it. And we say that, you know what? The world has been doing fine with this kind of model, so then that must be good. But that's not necessarily true.
Okay, Raben, my love, I'm too tired to understand that, honestly.
He's too smart for us.
I know, he's too smart.
Right?
I can't.
But
what I do think, specifically, is that... Sorry, Elliot threw me off because I have something in my
it's all
teeth.
good.
No, Kobe, I don't think Raben is a mansplainer. I think
We're going to talk about that too, actually.
Okay,
mansplaining.
sure. But what I want to say is that, like, specifically, okay, my best friend, she's in engineering. And I know Anna was talking about, quotas. And do I think that's necessarily a solution? Not necessarily. But I think it's important to talk about, just because, women are more likely to be successful as teachers or as lawyers or whatever, the statistic is. That's not to say, going back to what we were talking about generalizations, that, women can't be in science and women can't be in engineering.
Of course.
No, and I know that's not what you're saying, but I want to go along with that and say one of my best friends is actually in engineering. Mm-hmm. And she's not, like a intense feminist. She's never identified as that. And in her classes in engineering,
It's all dudes.
It's completely, she's one woman, I think in a class of, let's say, 50 people, like per class. And teachers explicitly will say to her, as they're doing things, like they're mixing cement. And I think she does civil engineering. They're mixing cement, and he'll turn to her and he'll say, yeah, like you're mixing it like, same way like with a paintbrush or when you're mixing pancakes. And the fact that he looks at her and he's not looking at the other guys in the class. He's looking at a woman.
Right.
Like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
That's mistreating her because of her gender.
Yeah.
And that's not the only thing that happened to her.
It is.
Another thing happened to her when, she was brushing something to do with cement again, whatever. She was like brushing something. A different teacher looks at her and is like, yeah, it's like, imagine it's just like a makeup brush. And she looks at him. She's like, what makes you think that I'm like spending all my day, playing with makeup brushes? I'm in engineering. I'm serious.
But
But I'm saying that is not a unique situation.
Is that something about engineering students to say more about it, though? Just like the way the culture as it is, or I don't know.
Okay, it doesn't matter. That's not what my point is.
Okay.
My point is the fact is that she is a woman in that field, and that's not like you can find so many more of similar examples to that. Like that's not unique.
Right. It happens to every single person that's in that kind of program or something.
Or
like that,
women in science in general. But the question is, and I want to direct this at Anna, I know you were saying, quotas aren't the right thing, but how can we solve that? Because this clearly is an issue.
Well, because even...
Yeah, the thing is that I believe that you should let women pursue what they want to pursue without putting, these kind of rules. For example, I used to work in a technology department, and I know I'm a lawyer. I don't know what I was doing there, but anyways. So the point is that a lot of women were working in the department, and they were amazing, but it's because it was their passion, just like it's the case of your friend. But to impose quotas and maybe to stop giving those positions to men that are so passionate about it just because, we need to get this by rule, we need to get this by force. I mean, it's not the right thing to do. If women want to be teachers, let them be teachers. If women want to be lawyers, let them be lawyers. If they want to be engineers, let them be.
I don't think quota is by force. I mean, I think it's just a way to reverse like a cycle.
But it's a slow process.
Well,
and that's the problem right
it's
now.
just a way to reverse like a mentality that has taken hold in STEM, right? Like as Tamar mentioned, her
That is
friend
so toxic
wasn't
masculinity.
exactly.
That's it right there.
Her friend
That's
was
the
in class.
definition.
It's like it's like mixing pancake batter. Like you clearly see that the professors have a problem with women, right? So by imposing quotas,
No, he has an idea of what women are.
exactly. So by imposing quotas, you're going above that idea, and you're telling them, look at the person for what they are, give them an equal opportunity because you have to take them in.
But it's because I already have equal opportunity. When you compete with men, you can have equal opportunities if you're good at
But it's not equal opportunity if there is no quotas. In the way that...
What do you mean?
What? Quota. What?
Well, no,
Quota
that's not
takes
what I'm
away equal opportunity.
No, all I'm saying is that there is a problem. There is a cultural problem within those programs where the professors and the decision makers see women as
Am I
less
the only one
qualified.
not seeing the egregiousness of this situation? Like,
Which one?
Is it inaccurate to describe this as like mixing pancake batter?
But why is that directed at the one woman in the room and not as any man? Have you never made pancakes before?
No, I haven't. I don't like pancakes.
Okay, but I'm saying, like, I'll tell you, I've never made pancakes in my life, right? So for him to...
But it's more like a housewife stereotype is what's going on there.
That's the
That's
point.
the main
That is
thing.
the problem.
Yeah.
Well, going to this quota discussion and about what Anna mentioned and what Ruben mentioned, let's bring an example that hits very close to home. This show was told that we are not diverse enough because we didn't
that was
have,
like in the beginning, though.
But still, it goes back to this quotas.
So when we first started, you know?
When we
I
first
was a
started,
diversity.
I would
Do you mind if I go
disagree
on
with
to that
that.
story, though? Do you mind if we go on to that story?
which one? I don't want to go too detailed into it.
No.
But
That's
just
what
the
he's doing.
Yeah.
But just the fact that we were told that we weren't diverse enough because we were apparently 4 white men, even though we were 2 Jews, an Arab, and a Hispanic, and 1 white man. But
I'm
in
actually
terms of
1.1% Ashkenazi Jew now.
oh yeah, sorry, so
Oh,
3
that was
Jews,
6%.
2.5
That
Jews.
was my dad.
But
nice.
just that concept alone, and it's like people always, attack me, like say, why don't you have a woman on the show? Why don't you have this on the show? I was never against it. It's not a matter of
Having intentionally
Yeah,
not
yeah,
put
having
a woman
intentionally.
on the
It's
show.
a
That's
matter
just not
of-
who reached out to you.
Exactly. And so when you talk about quotas, though, that's why it's like I find it very offensive when I have been told, well, go find a woman, And it's like I want women on the show because they want to be on the show and because they're interested, like Tamar.
Not just because
You-
they're a woman.
No, I said...
No, of course not.
That's why,
horrible.
exactly.
Yeah.
But
So-
isn't that not part of the problem? And is that not part of identity politics that we were talking
Well,
about?
I'm bringing it back to the quotas discussion because,
Okay.
like Anna, your experience going into to becoming a lawyer, did you feel discriminated against because you were a woman?
No, all the opposite. In my classroom, we were like 30 women and only 2 men. They were minority.
And did you guys discriminate against them?
Of course. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to having women on the Raben report as one example, or just anything where there's a demand, a forcible demand from some sort of authority saying you have to have more of this group included in this activity, in this undertaking, you end up with less qualified people. Because if we were forced to say, get rid of Marshall, he's too white, too straight, too male, he's gone, go find a woman right now. I mean, maybe Elliot and the team would have found a excellent woman for the show, and this was, of course, years before Tamar was here, but maybe in their rush, I would say likely in their rush, they would take whatever they could get, which means they're scraping the bottom of the barrel for whoever is willing to come on the show. And there are a lot of people who are willing to come on the show that simply are not good candidates for radio.
And I
But they
think
also end up having an echo chamber, right? Because
Yeah,
you can
sure.
only have certain people who have certain views, but not other people who have other views.
Right.
Then you're all just repeating the exact same thing. You don't have, this kind of discussion.
you're saying without the quotas.
I'm saying going with what Marshall was saying about specifically about this show is how you were told you can't, like, it's not diverse. Like, I can appreciate saying you need to have diversity for a school show in order to be put on their website. They have rules, you know what I mean? Like, that's fine. They're entitled to have their own rules.
Yeah.
But I also understand if you're telling people you can't be on the show because of X, Y, and Z, and you don't have enough women, and you don't have enough, this type of thing, this type of person, then you end up having an echo chamber. Because if you do have to find all those people, you have all these people with the similar, like, along the line agreeing with whatever these professors are telling you need to have on the show, and then you don't have an
And I
interesting
feel
show
like
at all.
it does a disservice to women, for example, because it's like they're considered a token, and I don't want that. You know what I mean?
No, that's what I was gonna say too. Is that, like, I think that the concept of like, just going back to quotas, for example, like, the concept of that is, like, I think it has good intentions, and I do think that there's certain, at least in the past, there were certain scenarios where women just were not allowed, not even necessarily not allowed, they were just discouraged from doing certain things. And I think, like, quotas are kind of more of an encouraging thing for women. But I do think to some extent it can be like, am I being hired into this role because I'm qualified for it and I'm the best possible person for this position?
Yeah, that'd be
or
such
am I
a-
being chosen because I'm a woman and that's basically all I have going for me.
Right, but you're not the only
that's so
woman that
horrible.
applies. You're competing against other women as well, right? So you're not
Yeah,
picked
yeah.
for the position just because you're a woman. It's because you're the best woman out there.
Yeah,
but
I-
it's
what
because
it
a
is.
woman
I think-
can be even better than a man.
but I
Oh yeah,
and I also
I'm totally not arguing
You
with that.
can compete.
All I'm saying is that in those specific programs that have a quota, there's a problem. The problem is the fact that professor and decision makers, I'm repeating myself out here, have a problem in the way they view women. They don't see them as capable as men. So in this particular cases, the university imposed a quota to change that kind of idea in a way.
And
A quota doesn't change the way I'm actually paraphrasing a
It
comment that we got.
it
but-
forces them to. It forces them to include them into the program, and then they'll realize that they're as good as men.
I mean, Professor Pancake Batter isn't going to stop telling women that, mixing cement is like mixing pancake batter just because there's a quota
If there's
in the
no
engineering
one,
sector.
if there's
It
no
won't,
one to
but,
tell
like,
them
why
about
is
it,
that
they'll never
okay?
stop. But if there's a woman in the class who tell them, listen, what you're doing is sexist, eventually you'll stop.
Well, why can't she just say that anyway without a quota?
You know why? You know why?
Well,
it's
because
not
without
okay,
a quota,
though?
she wouldn't be in the class.
What do you
Because
mean?
that
She's
prof
already in the
wouldn't take her
class.
in.
Okay, no, that's not true. I don't think they had a quota then.
but the
She's
reason-
obviously in the class and they're clearly not filling the quota.
But the reason this like pancake comment is made is because it's like an example, if it was in a reverse situation and like a bunch of like women were doing the same thing towards a man, like maybe they would get a little bit like they'd probably get bothered by it, but
What?
they're
Sorry,
not
if a
they're
man
not
was-
they're not gonna get as bothered as a woman because like we don't really experience like that on a regular basis.
Right,
you
but no
know?
one will make that comment to a
You
man.
would never
That's
have
the
that
point.
comment made to you.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like,
It's
like,
also you have to understand being not it's not like a hateful thing. So I hate to use the word like targeted, but like
Yeah.
being singled out
Mhm.
in front of a class, of
being
50
othered,
people,
pretty
when
much.
you're already
Yeah.
othered.
Yeah.
Like everyone's already making you feel uncomfortable for whatever reason it is. You're already you're a minority in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So for your professor who you're every day you're fighting to just prove that you belong there. Like this girl is brilliant. She gets top grades. Like she does amazing things, and it's not like. This girl's never, made pancakes in her life.
Mm-hmm.
She's, she mixes cement. I don't know. Honestly, I don't have any idea about engineering, so I can't go into much better examples.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like, she knows exactly what she's doing. So why do you have to give the example and dumb it down for her?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the issue. It's
think,
not
like-
the example itself.
I think I'm empathetic to the situation, more specifically because it's kind of an eye opener in taking this like feminist class and stuff like that. And like full disclosure, like I'm not gonna say I was like anti-feminist before that class, but like I know like maybe like a year ago or like a while back I was like really like watching lots of like conservative content that was like that really created a very super like anti-feminist like agenda that's like more like. But like that, they basically used like the radical feminist ideas, and they associated it with what I would say is the true definition of feminism.
Right,
Right?
it would be like judging a political movement by its extreme right.
No,
That's
but
not fair.
my point is because when I took this feminist class, it's like I didn't even consider like the gender population of the classroom, and I'm like, oh wait, it's me, two other guys that are in this class, and we're the only dudes, and it's like. And I literally like it was like slightly intimidating. It was like not that it was like not that I got scared or anything like that, but it's like I was like walking on eggshells and like trying to be careful because like the last thing I would want to do is like say something wrong or say something that could be misconstrued as something offensive or anything like that, right? It's like, and then I had the conversation with the professor. It's like, it's like. I've never experienced that before, but then women who that have this experience that every day, right? So it's like that's
would
like
you
the messed
compare
up.
quotas to affirmative action for college and
Affirmative actions
university?
are a kind of quota.
They're like more like
And
racialized.
do they
versus a quota.
benefit students?
It depends how you see it, I suppose.
Depends on who.
There is one thing with that's actually kind of problematic. The affirmative action thing is it's also I know there's cases of Asian students
I'm
because
glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's such because there's such a high population, and I don't know if that's like insensitive to say, but that's
No,
just
they're
how
like
it is.
5%, not 5%, but like a decent percentage of Americans.
So there's actually like an issue of when it comes to affirmative action, the people that it's supposed to be benefiting, it's like kind of going against them, and it's like, well, there's too many Asians, so we're not going to accept, like, we're going to accept other people so that we can like level it out, which I don't agree with. And I also think that if you are capable, and I think maybe in the past, certain like races and genders had a harder time getting into certain universities, because that's valid. There was a time where that was where some people had a harder time. I think now, if you have the grades, if you can afford to go to school, and if you're a good candidate, I do think that you can get into school. And I'm also speaking from like going to Mac, and there's like no white people,
Right.
and like again, not in an insensitive way, just like those people earn those grades, and it has nothing to do with race, gender, whatever. So I don't know, affirmative action for me is like, maybe at one point in time that was like an effective way to allow those who deserve to be in school to go, because they were being held back for social reasons. I think now affirmative action doesn't have as much of an importance anymore.
I think the real issue is with that, like in terms of like racial discrimination and by extension gender discrimination, is like in the American and Canadian university system, like we have all of these, like, I forget the term for it, but like they're born here for like ever, like generational families or something like that.
Legacy
families. Thank you. That's more of the issue that happens right now, like with the college admissions crisis that just came out. How many racialized people could have probably gotten an opportunity if they didn't give it to some Hollywood actress, you know? And that would have been the tools to escape poverty.
You know,
right?
They used to not let Catholics into university in the U.S. So all I'm saying is, if any of these schools want to send me a
free ride,
send me an affirmative action admission, free ride. I'm waiting. I'll be waiting.
But it's interesting. But that's very interesting though, because that's never been a case with the universities here. The discrimination is only based on gender or on race.
Well, that's not true up to like, I think like early 1900s. Jews. There was a quota of Jews at McGill, and I think at U of T as well. That's why York was created. Right?
But we've never seen this. Like, it's like, I guess so.
Yeah, but Elliot, I want to ask you if I want to know if you could get into talking about why people, and specifically here our panelists, why they are anti-feminist or not identifying as feminist, because I'm interested to hear their opinion.
I also kind of want to get into like Me Too and stuff.
That way, guys, we still got 40 minutes left. I wanted to go firstly, before we get into the Me Too movement, and before why some of us don't identify as feminists, I want to get into that concept of female empowerment, because we were talking about quotas and how they help women. So actually going right into the Me Too movement, let's talk about it. Is it empowering for women? Is it because when it started, it started as an empowering movement,
I need a beer for this.
And then a lot of people.
It's a lot of stuff to handle.
Hold on, a lot of people became very sensitive about it, and a lot of men were starting to say like, oh, I don't want to hire women because I don't want to be called out for something I didn't do, which took away from the movement. That's a horrible way
of thinking. But I'm sorry. I know.
Well,
I know you're not mine. I know.
We're talking about female empowerment, and I can tell you. Okay, maybe it's because I'm personally, anti-establishment, so that's my own thing.
Yeah.
I do not feel empowered whatsoever by the Women's March. Is
that partially because of the anti-Semitism
that
runs through
I think that specifically as a Jewish woman.
You mean like the massive one that Trump had, and like the ones that they regularly have?
The one with Linda Sarsour, Tamika Mallory. I think that because I don't think it's just the anti-Semitism. Obviously, that's personally why myself and other Jewish women don't feel connected to it. But I think that I want to know what their goal is. Like, yes, I understand when it comes to like, being believed and having the right to abortions. Like, that's fine. But express your goals. What explicitly is, and Jen added, like Louis Farrakhan. There are so many people within this Women's March movement that it, to me, feels like you're only a feminist if. You can only be part of our movement if. Yeah. And it's like, no, that is not...
Yeah.
Sorry,
that's the other thing that I was going to say. Like, for example, in your case is the anti-Semitism. In my case is abortion.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, if you're a woman who is pro-life, you are not a feminist. What? Feminists, the previous feminist waves, they were not pro-abortion. Starting with that.
And Anna, listen, like, personally, I, for myself, am not pro-abortion. Like, I myself would not have an abortion. I hope I never have to be in that situation where I have to consider it. However, that doesn't mean I don't believe. I am completely pro-choice. I'm never going to tell someone what to do with their body.
Yeah.
That's my view on it. But I'm saying to tell a woman, like, if you're a woman who's pro, you know, who's anti-abortion. I think it's so late, so I'm like trying to make sure I'm making
It's
sense.
pro-life,
yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, someone who is pro-life, and you go to other women and you know, to people and say, you can't do this, you don't do that, and start telling other women how to live their lives because of your ideology, and you're not, you know, it's not live and let live. I think that's when you can get into be a problem. However, I think that if you want to be a group of women and women empowerment, you need to be there for all women. You can't say you can only be part of our movement if you believe this, if you believe that, if you act like this, if you act like that. And that is a huge problem for me. And that's why I can't identify.
It's because feminism has become way too politicized, and unfortunately, it's been way too politicized as a left-leaning issue when it shouldn't be an issue that's only existent in the left.
Another thing that happened in the women's march is that they started to say that if they are not diverse enough, they are not going to have the march, or they were having issues with that. That's another stupid
Goes
thing.
back to the quotas, right?
Yeah, and the quota's a problem.
And this, so now exactly where I was headed with the issues of you're not a feminist this, you're not a feminist that. Now let's get into why some of us don't identify as feminists. Marshall.
You know, it's tough because I almost want to identify as a feminist because it's so hostile with people saying, excuse me, that you need to be a feminist. The idea among feminist thinkers and feminist identifying people, from what I see, is that everybody has to be a feminist. If you're not a feminist, it's some sort of crime against humanity. And to that end, I would like to say, okay, sure, if this is something that everybody should legitimately be, then okay. But then that has certain implications, and I'm not okay with those implications. Like, somebody will say, you know, you're not a feminist because you're pro-life or something like that. And I am pro-life, and I you know, that does make me incompatible with feminism in many aspects. Or you're not a feminist because you don't fight for equal pay. And, you know, that's not something that I particularly care about, to be honest.
We're going to get to the equal pay about that, yeah. But
you know, if I want to, I call myself a feminist, you know, for convenience sake, it's just going to be taken away from me by people who don't see eye to eye with me on certain issues anyway.
Yeah,
and also I was just gonna say, I think it's one like, people should have that choice, like, whether they want to be like, I identify with this, because we have that right to, like, align ourselves with things that concern us and things that we find important. And I don't know, you can't tell someone they have to be a feminist. I do think that there's, like, the ideologies of feminism that, like, people should just be a standard that people, like, uphold, you know, like, even if you don't identify as a feminist, like, you should still, there should, like, societal things like believing in equality, like, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to identify as a feminist.
Yeah.
Like, you have that choice.
And it's also to note the difference between that, because you can be, you know, not identify as a feminist, but also not necessarily be a misogynist.
And I want to
exactly.
I want to jump to Jessica for you to chime in, because you said that you consider yourself, I guess, an egalitarian, not necessarily a feminist.
Yeah, I did like the 90-degree like dab motion when you told me like raise or not raise. I feel like I agree with the issues that are brought up. Like, I've been treated differently before because I'm a girl, and that stuff's frustrating. Like, some of the stupidest examples. One time a guy wouldn't pass me a football, but the last year I was the captain of the football team.
Oh.
One time I wasn't included in a basketball game even though I've been junior and senior captain, and I'm like, man, I'm 6 feet tall, just someone pass me the ball. But I think,
get out of the way.
yeah, man, I'm like, I'm just a living tree, give me the basketball. But I think sometimes like the reactions to things that we find offensive, sometimes for me they're a little too much. For me they're a little too angry. I think for me I'd rather focus on educating someone on my standpoint and trying to understand where they're coming from rather than, you know, like shutting people down, because I feel like that never works. And I feel like that's a lot of what I see, and that's why I wouldn't necessarily label myself as a feminist.
And I want to continue with you because coming from, a different cultural background than, say, myself or Tamar or Daniel, things are different in India, right? Would you say the culture's very different in terms of the feminist movement?
I mean,
like, is that part of the reason you feel the way you feel?
I mean, I was raised a little bit differently. Like, I was raised to be super tough. Like, I went to military school. I've done sports my entire life. My dad, whenever he goes somewhere, he turns around and he's like, "You are the man of the house." I'm like, "You got a boss. I'll protect the family." But I think, like, it is an issue. Like, sometimes it's just like a cultural difference, right? Because for a long time, like, the roles of women and men are defined by the culture that they're in, and like sometimes like I get some crap from like like people within my own culture, but it's never them trying to insult you or trying to be like, "Oh my god, women suck." It's more like, "Oh, are you sure you want to be doing this? Are you sure you want to be so like I don't know what's the word,
masculine, different, or
yeah, like kind of like masculine, like, are you sure you want to step outside of these bounds?" Maybe because that person has never seen how that works in a different society. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. And so how do you like your interpretation of the culture, let's say there, and the culture here, which would you prefer, or at least are there aspects of both that you like?
I think it's tough to group all of India into just like one thing, right? Because there's so many different people, there's so many different religions. Like, okay, like for me, like my own family, like my dad and my brothers are Sikh, but my mom is Catholic, and then my little brother looks, I've been asked a couple times, it's like, "Hey, why is your little brother Asian?" Because like certain parts, it's just it's like an amalgamation of so many different places. So for example, I went to India in December, and I stayed for about 4 weeks, and that actually was one of my concerns. I was just reading about it because I'm like, "Oh wow, I haven't been back to the motherland in like a hot second, so let me read up about it." And then I hear all these scary stories about like violence against women in India, and I actually had a talk with my mom about it, and she was explaining to me, it's not like that everywhere, and a lot of the times the reasons why this kind of God damn it, words. Like this kind of like violent culture develops is because people are not educated. People don't necessarily know right from wrong. But like, for example,
that's an example.
I was in one place, like I was in New Delhi, and like there the crime rates are high. But then after that, I went to a place called Dimapur, where it's a lot better because the population of men and women are almost equal. And then you go to another place, and it's all different in India. So you can't group all of it together and be like one stance,
I have a question for you. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no worries.
But do you think that in India, the violence is especially focused on women?
I think so. Have you guys ever heard about the documentary called India's Daughter?
Yes, I watched it once.
Yeah, so that highlighted... shoot me your question one more time.
Like, is the violence especially focused on women?
I think so, because it's kind of like coming from like a patriarchal society. When I went to India, there was actually this campaign going on. So like I saw it on like the sides of the airports. It was advocating to like change the way the voting system is, and the main reason was like because there are like women who are like abused, or they're not allowed to have a voice because like they're in like this patriarchal system that kind of silences them.
That's a law, or does that mean they get like they?
No, it's not a law. So basically, there's like
or a controlling husband that refuses to let them to go out to vote. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, like kind of like that. Like sometimes in like smaller villages and stuff, like like the whole like issue with like the dowry and like now the the woman, and like when I was born, 1998 baby. So when I was born, like my parents the doctor couldn't even tell my parents like whether I was a boy or a girl because female infanticide is such an issue. So like sometimes when people find out, it's like, "Oh, I'm having a daughter."
That's horrible.
Yeah. So like my parents didn't even know.
So what's the feminist movement in India like with that being such an issue? Because that's not something we see as a major issue here, female infanticide.
I mean, from what I've seen, there's a lot of movements around like ending violence against women in India that goes around with like it's from what I've seen, the focus is mainly on like education, and then I saw another documentary that was aiming to add more women to the police force, because there have been like really awful cases
quotas?
of corruption within the Indian police system, where it's like, you know, even these police officers are guilty of committing these atrocious crimes against women.
Right.
You know, and India is such like
And who do you go to if you don't go to the
booming
police?
population, so it's like, you know, it's just like trying to find a solution for this.
And now I want to go into a darker topic, but would you agree that there is a rape culture in India? Would you feel that?
Again, I wouldn't be comfortable saying that, because India is so different. Like from the north to the south, it's
People. That's a
completely
misconception around the Indian nation, though. That because like I have a friend, like you can shout out to Reina if she does see this, but she's from, I believe, Gujarat, and that's like a northern side, and like with people with fair skin, and then like different like west and east, and they all have different skin tones, pretty much, right? It's very diverse, like on that color like aspect, but it's like.
And
Yeah.
color, as I understand, does play an important role in a lot of, and correct me if I'm saying something wrong here, but in a lot of the
Economic.
well, more just the culture,
No.
color is kind of something that's important.
Yeah, you're right about that. Like colorism is a thing. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but this is a big thing in India. There's a skin whitening cream called
Fair and
Yeah.
Lovely.
You got
Yeah.
it. There's Fair and Handsome
It
for
happens
men.
in West Indies too, right? In Jamaica and Haiti, all that stuff. It's like they or in Africa specifically. I think that's where I saw my source from that, though.
There was actually a controversy around a couple of years ago. Miss America, who was Indian, she was like, of course, like she got a couple of racist comments being like, "Oh, Miss Taliban, LMAO," but then, you know, you brush that off. But then beyond that, there were comments from Indians themselves being like, "She's too dark to be Miss America." And I was like, "Damn, man, that's whack."
Yeah.
But I really feel like that's changing a lot. Like I've just even like seeing it as I guess a quote unquote outsider. I feel like there are a lot of positive movements to empower women in India. So
Would you say it's harder to fight in India because there's that much violence against women that it's harder to sustain the movement?
If anything, I feel like it gives more power to it. You know what I mean? Because there are these. For anyone who doesn't know about India's daughter, it was this case. I believe it was in 2012.
Yeah.
It was about Jyoti Singh, and she was walking like at around 8 p.m. with a male colleague when these dudes in a bus picked her up. And then they were questioning her. They're like, "Why are you out? You're a woman." They raped her. They disemboweled her. They ditched her on the side of the road. And then it's just following this. It really split the nation. And then there was a huge thing where they banned the release of the film. And then there was a discussion on, isn't India supposed to be the largest democratic society? Why are you banning film? Why are you banning this expression?
Because it like that video basically like proves that there's a lot of work to do in India. You know, like an example, like the Me Too movement. For like, did we want to get back on that, or we already discussed that? Like we already like the Me Too movement began here in North America, and it's probably shifted to Europe or like it's in the West. That's all the same, right? But I think I was watching one of those episodes of Patriot Act with Hassan Minaj. Like that's not bad. I like it sometimes, but it's just like any other political talk show now that's like just dishes out on their rhetoric, right? But one of his actually really good episodes was about censorship in China, because the Chinese like public is trying to have their own Me Too movement, but the censorship of the internet in China very restricts their advocacy and their information to come out to the Chinese public. So basically what they've done now is they have actually tried to create a new hashtag, which is like Me Too, which is like the me, which stands for bunny, and then two for some other symbol, and like, that's a way to try to escape to get more public knowledge, right? So I think like this is happening like right now. Like this happened already in North America and in the West. It's happening right now in China, and I think India's next and something like that, and needing to figure out how to tackle this toxic masculinity, how to actually dismantle
But
the
Daniel,
existence.
you need to see how productive that can be in other societies as well. Because, for example, in Mexico...
Oh, you mean of the Me Too movement?
Yeah. In Mexico, just
Sorry, it was
a
kind of a
week ago,
Eurocentric view, but yeah.
Yeah, you were talking about China and India. That's not Eurocentric at all.
Yeah.
So, anyways, the point is that...
I was referring to like feminist stuff, but my bad.
So, the point is
You're
that
using your toxic masculinity.
in Mexico, there was this guy who was a rocker singer, and he just killed himself because he decided he was accused of raping a woman, and he was already suffering from depression, and they started to create this Twitter account that has millions of followers, and oh yeah, he raped a girl. They never did like background check if the allegation was real. The guy just committed suicide, and people started to argue like, you know, when you destroy a reputation, it takes a lot of time to build it up again.
And that's
And
one of the
sometimes it
negative.
doesn't
I'm
go
sorry,
back.
if the guy went as far as killing himself, he
of
most
that
probably had
movement.
something to, you know.
Sorry?
If the guy went as far as killing himself, I understand he was suffering with depression, which really is not a joke, but if he went as far as killing himself, maybe he had something to That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, maybe he had something to do with it.
Well, I think
Maybe
that's a
some
terrible
guilt.
way to look at it. You know, a rape accusation is something that, even if it's
But it's
proven
not
not to
something
happen,
that's thrown lightly.
will
Not
ruin
only
your...
that-
But you also have to understand that a rape accusation is not something that's thrown lightly. Because in a case, in a case where the woman
It's
is
not
proved,
light, though,
it's
nowadays.
not. It's not thrown lightly. In a case where the woman is proven wrong, her reputation is destroyed as well.
It's the
But
thing.
I-
The
Wait,
thing
but
with
if-
rape.
wait. If she's proven wrong, what do you mean proven wrong? Like she lied about it?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, but why is it okay to lie about it?
It isn't.
Well, it's not
It
okay,
isn't.
but I'm
Thank
just saying
you.
it's not an accusation that's
So-
thrown lightly.
Okay, no.
Because
but
she's
hang
also
on,
putting
hang
her
on, hang
reputation on the line.
Hang on here. We're talking. You're making a false equivalency here because what you have is you have a woman who might be lying about whether or not she was sexually assaulted, raped, whatever, versus going and saying this person did something to me. So she's putting like. If I'm accused of lying about something, yes, that can ruin my reputation. Everyone's going to think I'm a liar. But if I accuse someone of doing something, you know, sexual to me, and that's a lie, that person is forever going to have that in their reputation.
Well, absolutely not.
It's totally different.
Yeah.
It's
If you're
totally
proved
different.
wrong, so then it's going to be a public statement
Yes,
saying that
of
you're wrong,
course.
that you lied.
Yeah,
That's
it'll
it.
say
So
that I'm a liar, and you know it'll be really bad
So
for women everywhere.
perfect. So his
but the point is,
reputation
it's
won't
so
be
There's
different.
also
There's
a lot of
All I'm
people who
trying to
will
say-
always.
But there's that case that happened like right recently, like 2 weeks ago. Like I think it
I was
went
just about
viral.
to bring that up.
I know,
And-
like, everyone posted it on their social media
happened?
stories. Oh, the black guy, like that showed
Albert.
him
So
there.
Albert Wilson
Why
went
am I
to a
always
bar.
not part of this stuff?
Albert Wilson went to a bar. Albert Wilson's a black man, and he went to a bar and
It's
he met a girl there who happened to be 17 years old.
The bar didn't ID anyone.
He brought her home, and they were drinking. He brought her home and slept with her, and he accused her of rape. Sorry, other way around. She accused him of rape. He went to trial. He went to jail because, you know, she was drunk and underage, therefore could not consent. And he's just seeing a release appeal now. I think it's been, I'm not sure how long. I think it was 2 years maybe. And
yeah, he's been running.
now
yeah.
it's everybody's Instagram story
Yeah.
is
And
how, you know, the justice system treated this man so terribly. And I don't know if I agree with that because she is underage and,
But,
you know.
but you also have to just like, I think one thing is like, if she didn't tell him her age and she's in a bar, the assumption is that she's of age.
I agree,
Yeah.
but that's
then
not
you
the point. That's
also-
not what I was.
Yeah,
hold on.
yeah.
So I just find it funny how the intersection of believe all women and the race issues are kind of hitting each other at full speed here.
Yeah, you're
and
totally
there's
right.
You know-
so much to tackle there, but keep
Yeah.
going.
You know, when we look at all these other issues, it's always believe all women until it's a black man being falsely accused of rape. And that is just really the
It could- no,
fault.
you're
Wait,
totally
sorry.
right, though,
I have a
Glenn.
question though.
It's-
You
it's-
have the women who generally are you know saying believe all women. They're the ones saying, oh, they're treating this black man so badly. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that
That
there's
it's the
certainly
same
an
people?
intersection between these people.
course.
And
So
I-
would you say that that feminism is, you know, this whole believe all women, applies only to white women? Is that what you're going
no,
for?
that's not what
Absolutely
he's saying
not.
at all.
I think that believe all women is just something that is so unsustainable and something that is.
Listen, no system is perfect. In every major,
it's such
in
a
every,
silly
in
thing.
every major system, there is bound to be some kind of flaws, right?
Yeah, but-
You will always have people that will take advantage of the system.
But it's
when
so
it comes to the
flawed.
Me Too movement, there was so much abuse on part of men and so many women that went unheard that it was the movement needed for them to get their voices
Me-
out.
me
Yeah.
too.
But
The
in order
fact-
to get-
Too
the
separate
fact,
from
that.
the
Hold
fact
on,
that there are
but-
some people that take advantage of the system do not deny that the system was needed.
Me too
No,
is separate.
it wasn't.
But hold
Sorry,
on.
but
The-
you cannot just achieve justice by vulnerating the
The
justice
fact,
of others and the rights of
let
others.
me just give you an example. The
getting
fact
ready
that
to
someone
look up, right.
takes advantage of a democratic system to steal money doesn't mean that the system is corrupt. It means that the person is corrupt. And same thing in this case.
Not
The fact that
necessarily.
someone takes advantage
And
of the
still,
Me
we're
Too
talking
movement to
about-
gain fame doesn't mean that the movement is corrupt.
No,
It
sorry.
just means
We're
that the
talking about
person.
people that are going to prison. I mean, that's
Yeah, people's
We're
lives
talking
are at
about-
stake.
Yo,
We're
once,
talking
once,
about-
once again,
we're-
it's not
no.
an accusation that's thrown lightly.
We're-
If the person is considered not guilty, the person that accused them goes to jail in their turn.
Not necessarily.
Yes,
because you
in
have,
general,
well,
that's the case,
in
right?
general, but here's
if
the
they
thing, you
decide to
don't-
sue them, they go back to jail.
But
so
here's the
rape
thing, you
accusation is
don't-
not something that's thrown lightly.
But you don't abuse a system you feel is abused in order to get justice because and I'm going to go to Tamar in a second, but I just want to talk about you have this guy, what was his name again, Marshall?
Albert Wilson.
Albert Wilson, who was falsely accused of
what was
this
first
issue.
of all, what was he accused of? Was he accused
Rape.
of rape, or what was he
Well,
accused of, like,
he was accused
having
of-
sex with an underage
So-
girl?
No. She
because she was
accused him
sa-
of rape, but
Yeah.
then he was found to be guilty of statutory rape.
Yeah, because I think
I don't.
we're-
But
Because she was
I saw
underage.
something say
Where-
that they
what
didn't
was
have
she-
sex.
Like, did he bring her back home while
No,
she
where-
was
I don't know,
drunk?
but-
She couldn't consent.
Okay, I want to hear Christina.
No, I just was gonna say, just in regards to like that story was, because like I don't know how I mean, I'm in politics and I should know this, but I know like our age of consent is 16, but wherever this happened, it might not have.
This is in Kansas, 18.
Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, well, that's all I was gonna. And I also just wanted to go back to everything. I think one thing with the Me Too movement is like definitely some major flaws. I think the purpose of it when it started out was to empower women and was to share stories, and I can even say that I myself felt empowered to speak up about things, and it got blown out of proportion though. I think it was important because we were starting to address rape culture and whether
So you believe there is a rape culture? I want to ask that question as well. Do you believe in one in North America? Because we had an episode on this. You were here.
Okay, so I'm gonna say I believe there's a rape culture in the sense that I myself have been in a situation where I was the one who was thrown under the bus. I was the one who was told, you know, you need to be forgiving. Don't make yourself a victim. You know, forgive the guy. It's all good. Whereas he now has faced no repercussions. He is living his best life. And this is something, and this is a case where I don't even need to take him to court because I have evidence. I have people witnessed it happen. People know that it happened. And the whole thing is he was drunk, Christina. Forgive him. He didn't know what he was doing. He's young.
Don't ruin his life.
Don't ruin his life. And you know what? I didn't ruin his life because people were telling me not to. I didn't do anything about it. And I'm the one who now has to live the rest of my life with this, while he has his happy life with no, like, with absolutely
free of guilt or anything like that.
Free of guilt. He's fine. He's you know, his life is great and he has no remorse for what he did. Whereas I'm going to have to live the rest of my life with what he did. And you know what? That to me is rape culture. And I mean, it's a loose term. I think some people take it out of context, but I think there's a culture that forgives men. There's a culture that, well, you know, it is all kind of like changing with like modern day, but I think there's a culture that's like, men will do this. It's okay. You need to also be forgiving. And honestly, like, fuck forgiveness. Like,
Preach.
I would say there's definitely a rape culture. Maybe not the exact definition of what it's being like, because I think it is being taken out of proportion. But I would say my own experience is rape culture.
And so,
Christina, I want to agree. Sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
Elia. First of all, like, thank you for sharing that experience. I know,
yeah,
you
it's
know,
awful that
it's
that
about-
happened. We're sorry.
it's terrible that happened.
I'm getting my revenge as the years go on.
Okay, and you know what? Good.
Get
and
it.
I think that something that I wanted to say before, and what you said just gave a perfect example of it, is that as a woman myself, I do not. And maybe, you know, the other women here in this room and in the other room can agree or disagree with me. I feel that sorry, I just meant
I know.
you didn't hear what I said. Yeah.
We don't care.
Okay. I know, so like in my mind, every woman knows a woman who was raped or sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
But no man.
I saw that
yeah, I saw
sign.
that. But
Yeah.
but why is it always that no men know a rapist? Do you know what I mean?
This is the thing that men do know rapists, and they don't care. Well, and I'm not, and I shouldn't say men because like that's generalizing.
Yeah,
it.
but,
I
you know,
think there's a
people.
lot of men who genuinely do care. But I think like at least what I experienced, like all of his male friends, except for I can maybe pick out 2 of them, like decided that they were no longer going to associate with him, whereas all of his other friends were like, it's cool, we're just going to pretend it never happened.
Yeah.
We're not going to address this, we're not going to sit him down, we're not going to, you know, like his friends should have taken measures. Men should have cared that he did something awful, and those men should have cared about me. And that's selfish, whatever, but like
And then
no, it's not selfish. You're right.
And how do we then, have feminism as a movement create the idea that it's not just centered towards women, but that men can help
It needs to,
in this?
Men need
How do
to
we
be
do
part
that?
of the problem.
Well, so-
I'm sorry,
Not
part of the
problem.
solution. I'm sorry.
We're already there.
One thing
Oh
I
my
would
God.
say is men need to have the confidence, the confidence to address these things and be like, okay, yeah, maybe I'm going to lose a friend over this, but I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to make sure I address that what he did was wrong. Promoting the idea that men need to be aware of the things that they're doing. And I think that's another issue with Me Too is like, you know, we're putting harassment and rape on the same level, which is
Right.
like where I have my biggest issue with it. Or, you know, like I do not believe in comparing catcalling to rape.
Right.
But I think that it's important to at least have this discussion and for men to realize, hey, like maybe there's things that we're doing that are like forgiving of like men's actions. And I don't know, I think it all starts with a discussion. And I think Me Too was at first going to be a great way to do that. But it's kind of, I don't know.
It's gone
I think
too
for
far.
me, like from the
Way too far.
from like the man's perspective, like I've kind of like what you were saying, we're like associating with a friend and stuff like that, like something that like on like I don't want to get too much into it, but like a friend that I cared about dearly and someone else that I cared about dearly, like it was more like I don't know how to properly describe it, like I don't want to get too into it, but like almost like a love triangle, I guess, that like happened after. It was just a sticky situation for a relationship. But the problem is like I haven't spoken to that, like it's an ex-girlfriend of mine. I didn't speak to her for almost like 2.5 years. It was like a first year girlfriend, right? And then I hit her up because I was like stupid high and I just wanted to say hi or something like that. And then she immediately talks to me. Is like, hey, like I want to talk about this person. And it's like, I mean, it's like, what would happen? Is like, so we're on the phone. It's like 3-4 a.m. and she's basically telling me her side of the story. And it's like, and I'm just like, damn, like I thought I had a preconceived notion that it was different, that something that wasn't something like despicable. And when I confront my friend about it, obviously like he's going to deny it and stuff like that. But it's like, I'm like, it's a personal struggle that I handle, and I don't deal with on a daily basis. But like when I get reminded of it, I'm like I don't know like what to do. Like is like because like she's being like she's telling me this story and I want to believe what she has to say. And then but this is also someone that
you don't want to believe that your friend would ever do something like that.
Exactly.
And I think
and
that
it's not
that
like,
is a struggle for
and
sure.
I want to make a
Cognitive dissonance
distinction. It's like,
also.
and it's like it's hard because it's like it just irks me. It just irks me. I don't know how to describe it. You know,
this is not the first time that stuff like this has happened. I wanted to bring up Brock Turner, which is somebody who did rape somebody and he didn't get punished for it.
Well, he did, but not
really.
Not to the extent.
And
like,
that I think is a big. That is a big part of why feminism is important to me.
Yep.
And
this
why
movement.
rape culture, I would argue, exists.
Exactly.
Only because and I will kind of relate it back to like the racialized aspect of it, in the sense that like, you know, how much like backlash did what's his name, the black
Albert Wilson.
Albert Wilson? Mm-hmm. Okay, so think about the backlash that he would have gotten and the way that the court discriminated. I guess, discriminated against him and was very quick to just be like, you're guilty, we're throwing you under the bus. Whereas like with Brock Turner, it's like 6
Undeniable
months,
proof.
3 months with good behavior.
Oh.
And it's like, and that's the thing, undeniable proof. Like,
Yeah, I mean-
there was much more evidence.
There's no denying that
No, I know, but I would
why
argue
he-
that there was way more evidence in the Brock Turner case than there ever was in this Albert Wilson
Right, of
case.
course.
And it's like, the white man, and
It's with money.
I
and
don't
that's
like
the
doing
thing.
that
It's
in
Money
the
insane.
and the
Yeah,
white,
yeah,
no,
okay.
because he's a wealthy white man.
Well, okay,
That
hold
is
on.
why he got
when,
off
when
the
it
hook.
comes to Brock Turner, and I don't want anybody to think I'm defending him. I would never do that. But if you actually read the case, like, I don't really see it as him being a wealthy white man who got off because of that. There really
Is he
was
not of means, though?
not.
Is he not of means though?
Sure, but there really was not significant evidence to prosecute him.
There were
Like,
2 witnesses.
Yeah, so you cannot use
But then you have-
eyewitness evidence to send somebody to prison for a long time. Like, that's not enough.
Okay.
2 people
Also-
who arrived together on the scene, and I'm not
But,
telling you
like-
my opinion on things. I'm just telling you how things work in the legal
And
system.
I,
right?
and I just want to
Right, so that's a legal loophole. But
just
like,
shows
that's
that
like
there's, like,
something
some
that people
failures
have
in
for a
our
long
system.
time.
Hold on. I
Yeah.
just wanted to add that idea of witnesses sending people to jail, because then again you have the idea of false rape accusations. So how do you how can you base somebody doing something completely off of witnesses? Because
You can't.
you can't.
But with Albert
not
Wilson,
necessarily
But that-
on
is
Brock
that not
Turner.
No, but
is
it's
that
not.
not this in general with his whole
No,
rape
it should be
culture?
taken into account.
No, but that's what
but
I'm
not
saying.
a
Is that
sole
what
thing.
how often are you able to provide proof? How like
Well, that's the thing
unless
about
you
rape.
go
When it's actual
Exactly.
rape, there are different ways of providing proof.
right, but so
There's
I-
genetic
okay,
forensics.
Yeah,
so
but not
listen,
everyone has
listen.
not everyone
Okay,
reads
can
for
I
a
finish
rape
what I was
kit.
saying, please? Yeah. So yes, I understand. There is. If you go and do a rape kit right after you're raped or the day or within 24 hours,
Yeah.
sure you can have proof and genetic proof.
And I'm going to
But
argue
what
that
about-
Sometimes you can't
really-
even- but can you
it's
even-
really difficult
Okay,
for a
it's-
woman 24 hours
Thank
later
you. That
to be
is
like,
exactly what I've
I'm
been
gonna
trying
go
to
get
say.
a rape kit. And
That
let
is
me
exactly
tell you,
what I was
you're
trying
already
to say.
I was
dealing
gonna
with
bring that
emotional
up.
stress.
a rape
Like,
kit is invasive. If you have already been invaded,
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, like, and I can say myself, I am not going anywhere 24 hours after something like that happens, because like I've already had to deal with enough
Something
And-
else.
and
being
do you have
bullshit.
to-
But can I just
I just want to ask: do you have to pay for a rape kit, or is it provided?
in Ontario,
Because I don't.
I don't think in
know.
Ontario, no.
Okay.
No, it's probably
just
free
out
in
of
Illinois.
curiosity.
But my point is what I wanted to say was that, and going along with what Christina was saying, is that 24 hours after something happens, like, we react to shock. Your body's in shock. People react, by freezing. People react by, anxiety, those different types of things. Like, you may not even realize what happened to you, like, consciously until after.
You'll
And
deny
to
it,
expect
yeah.
someone...
the adrenaline takes over, and you don't know.
And
Just
to
like
expect this person, to have to go 24 hours, within 24 hours of, this intense, totally traumatizing thing happening to them. You can't expect that. And I listen, and that's why it's such a murky waters, and that's why it's so difficult, to have concrete proof if you don't get a rape kit right in. But like, that's part of where believe women comes from, because this whole it's all interconnected, right? Because you have such an uneven way of saying this is rape, this is rape, this is proof. And women are so, because of that, often women are not believed. So as a reaction to that, we're saying no, like, why would a woman lie about such a traumatic event happening to them? And listen, there's people that lie about everything.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are women that do lie about rape, and it's really unfortunate because it totally diminishes
the real victims.
the real
Yeah.
victims, and it's terrible. But what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed
And
to not bring
that's my
justice to the
question.
people who deserve it?
That's the
or
question. What are we supposed to do?
That's the question. And I don't know, and that's
it also
why.
it's a hard question for, like, especially a woman to answer. Like, what can we do? Like, I mean, I would say that there's a lot that we're trying to do, like,
And we're not succeeding.
and it's not successful. And I will say, from my own experience, like, witnesses would be my most, like, valid form of evidence. And unfortunately, that doesn't get me anywhere. And so I'm gonna, and so there's some things that you have to fucking, okay, fine, like, I'm, gotta move on with it, deal with it in my own way. This is like 4 years ago now, so, like, what am I gonna do? And that's a big, and it sucks that I'm in that position, and that other women are in this position, and other women have had way worse experiences than I have. And it's like, and I know that, like, and I would say, like, rape and sexual assault is one of the, like, crimes that's, like, really, really hard to prosecute and to only because it's like if you don't have physical evidence,
It's a lot of he said, she said.
it's a lot of he said, she said, and like that's where you get into like the possibility of false accusations, which totally exist. And then you also get into a position where, you know, women are being like either ignored or they have to like deal with the or have to deal with, okay, well, nothing's going to ever be done about this.
Yeah.
Right, I
And-
think that if I was any other crime that's committed against a man, like they would be taken more seriously. Like if someone gets his money stolen, I don't
Well,
think
yeah.
anyone would tell him you flaunted your money too much, right? So when it
Exactly.
comes
Yeah.
to when it comes to women
That's a good
and
one.
like
I
rape
never heard that one.
and rape, like most people
it would
don't have a
depend.
tendency not to believe them, right? Because it's so much easier to
It's
like
so much because
throw it
of
under
the
the-
physical aspect of
exactly.
it. It's so much
Yeah,
easier to
when
be like,
physical.
well, there's like not really enough to go off on, so it's so much easier to say, nah, fuck it. It does, like it didn't happen. Sorry, I keep using the F word and I
It's okay,
never
we
do
use
that.
it
Yeah,
all
but
the time.
that's
But I think it also
that
has-
also
Fucking
kind of
topic.
applies to men. Actually, I remember that when I was in law school, one of the things that they taught us is that when men are abused by their partners, actually are even less chances that these crimes will be persecuted.
And that's
a problem as
also
well, right?
That's also a problem.
And
That
it
doesn't
all has
diminish
to do-
I
either
have
side.
friends who were even stabbed by their girlfriends,
Yeah.
and they will never
But
be
it-
taken
So
seriously
no-
by
yeah,
authority.
and it all has to
Yeah,
do
and
with
it is
that
unfortunate.
with that fucked up like social system where boys have to be boys have to be men, they have to hide their emotion, and it's normal if they go out of control. So like that causes this problem that you mentioned, but also causes your problem as well, right? Where it's like, oh, don't ruin his life. He's a boy. Like he didn't do it on purpose. And like what we have to do is actually look at the feminist movement and change the social system where like boys have to be boys will be boys, and like women exaggerate. No, like we're equal, we're even. Your word is worth as much as mine, and your actions are worth as much as my actions, and it should be punishable as such.
And I think that's one thing that like the Me Too movement failed to do was to address the fact that like Me Too didn't only need to be about women. It needed to be about a system in a society that was allowing people to be hurt based on, I don't know, power, based on societal beliefs. And I think like that's one thing. That's where I kind of started to drift away from the Me Too movement, was that there was this one case, I can't remember who it was. Oh, you know who it was? It was Anthony Bourdain's girlfriend.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't remember her name, but she basically had slept with, or I guess the word would be raped, like this underage boy that she was doing like a film with, and she even, and there's literally evidence that she paid him off.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, to be quiet. And so, and then, you know, Rose McGowan comes out and she goes, well, I think we need to just be really gentle right now. Like, we don't have all the facts. But then when it came to all the cases of women coming out, she's like, believe all women. Why would
It's
a
a
woman
hypocrite.
lie
You
about
can't-
this
yeah.
kind of
Who's
thing?
Rose McGowan? That name is so familiar.
She's
One of
like,
the-
she's like got the shaved head. She's like one of the like faces of the
Yeah.
Me Too movement.
Right. Okay.
But also, what about what happened on American
Oh,
Idol?
she
Cardi
did the
B
book
girl as
club.
well.
Didn't she
Yeah.
do the readings of her book or something? And she got in trouble.
Oh
She
yeah,
had book
I
signings,
have no
right?
idea. All I know was when I really started to have a problem with the Me Too movement is when suddenly this man comes out about a story and there's evidence in the same way that other women gave evidence, like, and we're saying, well, let's be gentle. Let's take a step back and like be
It's
easy on.
hypocritical.
It's
Yeah.
super hypocritical because now you're basically telling this man that like you're not a woman, so it's like not as valid, and like you're,
Right.
you know, and that's super
Right, but
problematic.
could you
Yeah.
really associate a movement with one of the like head figures? I guess the movement is so much bigger than that one person.
But I
Oh,
think
no,
the
totally.
head,
And
but
one
I
of
think
the
the
things I
head,
think the movement
the head figure set it. Yeah, set an example,
Yeah.
and those are the ones that are the face,
Yeah,
and
I
those are the
hear
ones
that.
you look to.
But the thing is, like, one thing that the Me Too movement did, and I think one thing I think they did right, is that I think every single man knows someone that has been sexually abused. But like
Every single person.
every single person, but also every single man knows someone that's been sexually abused, right? But in our head, it's just like we think that it's just like an isolated event, right? What the Me Too movement did is that it showed the world that it wasn't
isn't
just
isolated.
Exactly, it's not isolated. It's not just your friend.
a lot more people
Everyone
than
is
you
doing
think.
it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you
Right.
should like your friend should be accountable for his action for whatever he did, for whatever he
But
did.
I think
And-
also is that we don't have a legitimate legitimate is not the word. We don't have a definition, I would say, of what rape culture is. Like, I know, like, my brother would say to me, like, rape culture isn't, you know, like what Christina's talking about. Rape culture is going out onto the street, getting raped, and not getting persecuted for it.
Googling the definition, it's more of like an environment where rape is socially accepted.
Okay.
And that's like why when I was saying like the definition is kind of loose is because like maybe I do interpret it wrong and maybe we do interpret it a little bit differently, like say in North America.
I mean, everyone's open to their own interpretation too,
and
right?
I think the way that I would interpret it is not that like rape is accepted, but that it's excused and that it's
it's swept under the carpet.
It's swept under the rug. And like agree with you.
There's a lot of like aspects of our society that almost
lend to it.
Yeah, that kind of like allow these things to happen, and I don't know how to word it, but I just think that like, the way that I interpreted it is having a society that like allows anyone, woman or man, to be assaulted, and for there to be societal aspects that like are kind of lead to you know what, I'm tired, man.
I mean, look at how
I think Christina and I have the same perspective on that largely, but I would probably word it differently in that
my words
I don't think that our culture is a rape culture, but I do think that many microcosms of rape culture do exist within our culture. And I don't think that our culture as a whole breeds an acceptance or a proliferation of rape, but I think that there are many institutions within our culture that do.
I mean, surprisingly, I would disagree with you. Like, look at Harvey Weinstein. Surprisingly, I was just
Hollywood is one of those
right?
microcosms.
Look at Harvey. No, it's not a microcosm. Like everyone knew that Harvey Weinstein was a sexual abuser. Nevertheless, he was swiped under the rug for years and years and years, and that's not only in Hollywood.
Hollywood
that's
is
also,
a microcosm, though.
Like
most people,
world,
the huge majority of people are not members of Hollywood.
Right, but if someone that's
making it a microcosm.
Right, but also if someone that's under the spotlight 24/7 is able to hide that for so many years, just imagine someone that's living in the shadow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a good point.
And you know, I'm gonna have to end the discussion there, sadly, just because you know, we had a wonderful discussion, but we are, you know, running out of time. Just, you know, very last thing I want to ask, you know, what is the future of feminism? Very quickly, even though it's a huge question, what's going to happen now? Are we going to get a fifth wave? Is it going to go even more radical? Is it going to improve? You know,
the only way I believe it can survive is lowering down the radical aspect. Otherwise, you will see women being split on these aspects.
Needs to, I think one thing is like there's one issue of like contemporary feminism is this like we're creating these non-issues. And I think that if we're focusing on real things that have a solution, that need a solution, we can succeed. But we have to be careful of, you know, creating non-issues that are never going to be solved because they aren't even issues in the first place.
And I wanted to just bring our poll because we did ask our audience, is feminism, let me just pull up the question, has the feminist movement improved or regressed over time? And as I was watching the polls being voted on, it was very equal at many times. But the final results of the people who voted, there were 117 votes. 45% said feminism has improved, and 55% have said that feminism has regressed.
No, I tried also.
Yeah, but I gotta say that every movement has its extreme, and when it comes to social justice movement, we're much more like it's much more easy for us to put that like extreme label on people.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. Is like just because there's like extreme members that identify with a group doesn't mean that like that's what the group is.
And we have a tendency to put a label on everyone because we don't really want to look into it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to say for my last thoughts is that I think that you have to make a difference between an organized label versus an ideology. So yes, you can have a whole group of people who subscribe to a specific ideology and call that a feminist movement, but I personally, I love to call myself a feminist because I believe in equality and I'm extremely proud to be a woman and, you know, with all that comes with. And I think that but at the same time, I'm not identifying with the feminist movement in of itself because I don't agree with everything.
Yeah.
So I think that is something we need to think about is that the future, like, personally, in my mind, no, I don't think that feminism, as in the word feminism, not the feminist movement, has regressed. I think that it has empowered me as a woman and has powered many people, many women, and people in general. But to say that the movement, yeah, I don't know that the movement itself has, I would say maybe the movement has regressed, because when you lose sight of the goal that you're trying to reach and you don't have that goal set out, you're kind of just, like a chicken running around with its head cut off.
So,
and
so
it's
in
not
your head, the
getting
movement
anywhere.
has been hijacked, basically.
I just don't think the movement really has. I just think as an organized movement, I don't think they're working towards a specific goal. It's just they're kind of turning it into it's women, and then like nobody else.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm not fighting the feminist movement, but I believe in. I identify as a feminist because of what it stands for.
In its value.
Yeah, but
same.
I'm not going out and marching because I, like you, do not feel empowered by Me Too. I don't feel like anymore, and I don't feel empowered by the Women's March. So I'm not out there fighting for the feminist movement because I personally would rather deal with it in other ways.
Okay, and my final thoughts are that feminism to me is just become a label and not much more. And statistically, it's declining in popularity, and I think that trend will continue.
Are you saying the feminist movement has become a label, or feminism
the
itself?
label of feminism.
Not wanting to identify.
Yeah, women do not want to identify themselves as feminists anymore, and I think that there's a good reason for that.
Like 80 according to a Cornell University study, over 80% of women identify as wanting equal rights, but only 7% identify as feminists. So
and I think that
but isn't wanting
kind of,
equal right like the
but that's
core
that's
definition?
what I'm getting at.
Exactly what we're talking about.
That's what I'm getting at. But Ruben, no more arguing. We're doing final thoughts.
Oh yeah, sorry.
We're being Tony
So
Laird right
I'm
now.
exhausted. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that as it becomes more of an arbitrary label, those trends are going to continue, and it's just going to become less and less popular.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a new wave that's going to be focusing on trying to get Western women to try and help the global South. I think that's more important. That needs to be into the next wave. We have feminism in Western nations and stuff like that, but if the next goal would be to have equality for everyone in every corner of the planet, and that going hand in hand goes with electing more officials with as women as officials, ending the travesty that is female genital mutilation that occurs in certain countries and stuff like that.
We didn't even get into that.
Yeah,
at all.
no.
But that's something that should be prioritized.
Yeah.
And I think it's gonna go under a new veil that isn't around the feminist idea, but equality and stuff like that.
And lastly, I wanted to hear Juss and Anna's final thoughts. Juss, let's start with you, just really quickly.
I think I'm in the boat of just seeing what happens. I think I agree with the whole thing of I don't really feel like the feminist movement is impacting me, or I'm not necessarily empowered by it, but I don't know. I think it's, for me, the way I see it is all up in the air, because there are people raising concerns about the movement and about a lot of other social movements. So I guess we'll just have to see how, what the response is and how we shift the stance.
Yeah, I believe that in the end, like I said, there will be another wave, and this wave will be more about keeping the radicals under control and pursuing the real goals that are affecting women.
Yeah. And it's definitely going to be something to watch as life goes on. But, of course, that was our show for this week. It was a very, very heated topic, but thank you to everyone that tuned in and that messaged us live this season. A massive thank you to our guests, Christina, Jessica, Anna, and of course Ruben. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate having your thoughts. We're so lucky to have had you on, honestly. Thank you to our past guests this season, including Lauren, Chris, Sam, Jennifer, and Jake. Thank you to Kevin Konorzewski and Brian Withers and the EDC and Sam Deely for helping make this show possible. Thank you to my parents for supporting this whole thing. And thank you, of course, to... you know who you are, Tamar, Marshall, and Daniel. Of course, this was an incredible
one episode
season.
without mentioning Celine Dion.
Oh, there we
God,
go.
I'm sorry.
This is an incredible show to be a part of, and it would be nothing without you guys. So thank you so much.
Appreciate it, bro.
Thank you, Elliot.
It's been a ride.
Well, we're not done. We're not done. We got hopefully 2 more seasons at least. But that's it for season 6. Stay tuned for a summer special that we hope to bring to you with all the original members of this season, as well as season 7, which we'll find out if we're back on in September. Until then, I'm Elliot Raben signing off on behalf of everyone at the Raben Report. Thank you and have a great day.